going to come up during public comment, and then we can just
Good.
go from there.
Yeah, fine. Anything you need to do to lead that?
Yeah, okay.
Fine, I'll just.
When he walks up.
I will defer to you. Cool. Hello, hello. Councilmember Albadamos, please return to the dais.
Look really quick at something there, Garcia. I want to make sure that it was correct on here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Council members ready? Right. Everyone ready? Okay. Call the meeting to order. Regular City Council meeting for December 5th, 2023. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Miriam Abadamas.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Joseph.
Here.
Councilmember David Oro.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
Mayor Leon Garcia.
Here. Thank you. We'll move now to report on closed session confirmation reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the public, your council convened at open at 5:01 p.m. and ascertained that there were no public comments on the matters agendized for closed session consideration. You adjourned to closed session at 5:02 p.m. and you concluded at 6:25 p.m. I will prepare a written report concerning the report from closed session with one exception. The written report would be consistent with the provisions of Government Code Section 54-957.1. The one exception is one of the matters handled under closed session agenda item number 1, anticipated litigation, dealt with a potential challenge to the Watson Lane annexation. And with respect to that, there was direction in closed session that is reportable and should be confirmed in open. Specifically, it's the approval of a tolling agreement between the City of American Canyon and the Center for Biological Diversity, agreeing that for a period of 90 days from today, a potential claim to be advanced against the city for failure to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act is tolled or stayed. This would allow both parties sufficient time to address issues associated with settlement. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I would request that you confirm the action taken in closed session, which was unanimous approval and direction to execute the tolling agreement just described. So if there could be that confirming action.
So moved.
but-
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas.
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph.
Yes.
Councilmember Oro.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Yes.
Mayor Garcia.
Yes.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Ross.
That would conclude the report upon return from closed session unless there are questions.
Any questions from Mr. Ross?
No, sir.
Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ross. We'll move on now to proclamations and presentations. There are none this evening. Next is public comments, item not on closed session or open session agenda. Anybody have a
Mayor Garcia, we did receive 3 written comments that were not items not on the agenda this evening from Mark North, Jeanette Goich, and Yvonne Beginski.
Okay.
I have a couple of speaker cards from audience members this evening. First, I have Yvonne Beginski.
Very good. Please come to the podium. Good evening. Oh, one moment, please. No, your speaker's on.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Yvonne Baginski, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about a concern I have about the amount of open space that's being utilized for industrial development. About 33 years ago, I moved to Vallejo, and I moved into an apartment on Catalonia Lane by the Costco. And one day I was taking a walk, and I walked through a field, and there was a tree totally covered in monarch butterflies. And it was winter, and I did not know that monarch butterflies were overwintering in Vallejo in this particular area. And about 3 months later, I returned to that area, and the tree had been cut down, the land had been cleared and graded, and they were getting ready to build new apartments. No one was paying attention to that tree and what purpose that tree was serving. I forgot about that story until this last week when I went out to take a look at that property, the warehouse property on the Commerce Court, where there was a public hearing on the 17th, and they had asked for an environmental review and comments from the public. And I was unable to attend that hearing, but I did go out to take a look at that property. And you know, my heart sank because that property has already been graded. All the trees had already been cut down, and it was being used as a parking lot by the laborers who were building the warehouses on either side. So there really wasn't anything to environmentally review because the land had already been totally devastated. And that land borders on the North Slough. It was one eucalyptus grove away from the wetland edge where everybody walks. And I thought, well, we didn't even know what was on this property before it was devastated. And I just really want this council to pay attention to that. I know that in 2018, you changed that designation on the zoning, and you took it from open space into commercial recreation, which gave you permission then to put this on this property, to put an industrial development on this property. But you know, you are putting a warehouse with 23 bays on it. So that means 23 diesel trucks are going to be using that property, and I don't know how many times a day, and how much traffic is going to be going in there. And that is right next to that Spirit Horse Ranch. It's like right over one more. And I thought, boy, do they even know what they did? So I just want to relate that story for you. I also am asking whether or not you set up mitigation for that land that you took out of open space and have open space somewhere else in American Canyon to replace that land that you changed into industrial. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Goyish.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Jeanette Goyech, and I'm from American Canyon. First, I'd like to discuss my understanding of the SDG Distribution Center Conditional Use Permit meeting, which occurred on Friday, November 17th at 2 p.m., the final day before a long Thanksgiving holiday. Looked like there were only 3 persons on the Zoom meeting, including me. This was called a scoping meeting, which I assume meant the area at 1055 Commerce Court was being reviewed for development after EIR reports were done. During the meeting, there was discussion of jobs, hours of operation for the warehouse. I do not recall anything said about the EIR report, however. A couple of days later, my family and friends visited the area. What we saw was very disappointing. The area proposed had been graded and, in my eyes, primed for construction. Don't see how an EIR report can be done on that area now. Apparently, this area is near wetlands. What we saw was a small area fenced off with orange plastic fencing. Is this the wetlands being protected? I don't know. I have come to learn that in 2018, the property at 1055 Commerce Court was originally open space recreational, but changed to commercial recreational, making it an industrial zone. All legal, I guess, but my question is, why was this open space recreation changed to, in effect, industrial? Why does every piece of open space need to be cemented over? I just want to finish with a little story I found. According to an old Jewish folktale, one day a child, Honi, saw an old man digging a hole in the earth. Honi asked the man, "Must you do heavy work at your age? Have you no sons to help you?" The man kept digging. "This work I must do myself." Honi asked, "How old are you?" "I am 70 years and 7, answered the man. "And what are you planting?" "I am planting a breadfruit tree," was the answer. "And the fruit of this tree can be made into bread." "And when will your tree bear fruit?" asked Honi. "In 17 years and 7. "But you surely will not live that long," said Honi. "Yes," said the old man, "I will not live that long, but I must plant this tree. When I came into this world, there were trees here for me. It is my duty to make sure that when I leave, there will be trees here also." That's the end of my story.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have no other speaker cards, but I do have hands raised online.
Okay.
Or, okay.
Let's take audience first.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience? Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. My name is Hugh Marquez of 58 Crawford. I just want to commend Public Works. I saw the work that was done at Donaldson Way, and it looks really good. I hope in the future for the bike lane, the green striping and the lanes will go off of like Kimberly and some of the other lanes. So I'm hoping in the future that that type of striping will be put in. But again, I want to commend you for getting that done, and hopefully we can get more streets repaved. I think that's an overlayment, right? That was an overlayment, or was that redone? That was totally redone? Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Olson, just wait for a second. We'll call you up. Yep.
Next speaker, please.
Okay, I have Justin Hamilton Hole. Go ahead, Justin.
Well, happy holiday to you all.
Happy holidays.
I am Justin Hall. I've been American 38 year. I have good news and I'm very happy. I'm speaking to that one person down with Kieran Dunmore, and I know he is going to put the fence up there on the hill. So there's nobody putting garbage in there, and he bought the land. So he said to me, we're gonna get a new house on there, hopefully soon, and hopefully we will see a new sidewalk. So I was very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I have no other hands raised.
Okay. Was it somebody else for
We're
public comment?
ready for Brian Olson, please.
Yeah, this is a little unusual one, and I'm going to take the lead in here. I asked Mr. Olson here. He is a part of the American Canyon youth football program here in town, a very successful organization, and he's here because Councilmember Pierre and I had a bet in January during the NFC playoffs it was this year, but in January, where the Eagles and the 49ers played each other. And the original bet then was that we would give $100 to our local charity. Everybody knows what happens in January. The Eagles won that game. And I gave $100 to the local charity, the American Canyon High School Choir, which Pierre Washington gave to. But the rematch was this last Sunday, and he lost. And in addition to the $100 to my favorite charity, he has to wear that 49ers jersey, which is awesome. How's it feel, Pierre? He looks good.
It's funny. It actually looked pretty good. I like the way it looks.
So we're here to present tonight $100 to the American Canyon Youth Football Program. But before we do that, we're going to allow them to say a few words and go from there. And hopefully take a picture afterwards.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. As the council member said, my name is Brian Olson. I live in Montemino on Eisenhower Court. I've been involved with the Junior Wolves now for about 10 years. And one of the things that I've seen in town is we're slightly getting to the point where we realize that American Canyon football is really good. Years ago, we couldn't compete with Fairfield. We couldn't compete with Vallejo. We couldn't compete with Napa. Well, now we play in the Sacramento Youth Football Organization that has 80 schools from Sacramento all the way to the out here on the west. And this year and last year, we sent 5 teams to the Super Bowl, which is our Super Bowl, end of the season finale. And not only that, in the last 10 years, we've had six Super Bowl champs while in that league, and we're consistently sending kids on to the next level to play for our high school and hopefully bring some section championships to the town as well. From 8 years old and on, we follow behind Coach Hudson's tutelage. We run his offensive scheme and his defense from 8 years old all the way until they're 18. And that's started the partnership between the two. It started with Coach Matante before, and it's just getting better and better. Now, this year, we were invited to a national tournament in Las Vegas for our second consecutive year. This year, 3 of our teams went, and fortunately enough, our 8U were able to win their second and back-to-back national championship. We played Santa Clarita out of Los Angeles, Magic Mountain area, and we were able to beat them. We were supposed to play the Las Vegas team the next day, and the Las Vegas team had watched our game with Santa Clarita, and they decided that they couldn't beat either one of us, so they backed out of the tournament.
Oh,
And so we ended up playing Santa Clarita again, and we ended up with the championship. So these are 2 of our best players here on the team. We have Cesar Pena, and Bill Olson, that's his real name. That's my son. And my older son's name's Joe Montana. That's his first name, by the way. That's a true story. His middle name's James. But anyway, I don't know a lot of things, but I do know that good blocking, a great offensive scheme, and a terrorizing defense wins a lot of championships,
Yes, it does.
as you saw last Sunday. So with that being said, we have to start getting in the feeling that this is a football town, and it's going to become more and more a football town as we all work together to get these kids up through high school and start hanging banners in that gym.
all right.
One thing that would be great is if we didn't have children that develop injuries during the season due to the grass at Community Park number 1. That grass, I think, was planted sometime in the late 60s, early 70s. By the look of it and by the feel of it, it's hard as concrete. 3 weeks into the season, the grass is gone because we have 150 kids out there running around every day. And it's really tough. It's really tough. So if there's any way that we could, get some grass seed, maybe a little, I'm not asking for a turf field. Maybe a little watering, that would be super. We start practice in July, so we would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do a little photo op, or you want to say
I
something?
was
Pierre?
going to mention real quick that I take honor in being able to give a check to you guys. I mean, it doesn't hurt me at all. But I also want to say I was rooting for American Canyon, the choir for the high school. So, but I'm still going to give them $100 because that's my heart goes out to the choir. But this check is for you guys.
We'll take a photo.
And a penalty flag.
He feels good, too. Especially 19.
He did the most damage. I made that up. His first time seeing me.
All right.
If you could,
Sure, sure.
John. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Any other public comments? Items not on closed session are open. Okay.
I was just wondering if the city of American Canyon could decorate the highway a little bit, or maybe the chamber. I know there's 2 trees down by my house, and I went down to that Vino, and I asked them if they could decorate those 2 trees. I don't know if they will or not. But coming over the overpass, it would look really nice to see a couple of trees decorated. And then I was thinking, maybe you should have a little contest where the businesses on the highway could decorate, and then they could get a prize or something. But anyway, it's just a thought. I think it would be nice to see some decorations along our highway. My thought.
Thank you for the thought, and maybe that's something the chamber could get involved with. Yeah, thank you. Any other public comment? Well, I understand we have a special guest today that Vice Mayor Pierre Washington would like to.
Yeah, I want to just welcome Mr. John Marquez. He used to be the city council member in Richmond when I worked Richmond, and I used to escort him to and from home, make sure he got home safely. And I'm honored to be able to sit here and say, you were one of my mentors and made me get to where I am today. So thank you, sir.
Well, good to have you in attendance today, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other public comments, then we will close public comment and move on with our agenda. Any agenda changes, council members? If not, I will accept a motion for the consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
Okay, motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamas?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you, council. Moving on in the agenda, public hearings there are none this evening. We'll move on to business items. Item number 1, Animal Shelter Services Update. Staff report, please.
Thank you. All right. Can you hear me okay? There we go. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have an update for you on the animal shelter. Just by way of history, Napa County provides animal shelter services for American Canyon. We've had a contract in place since 2009, and that contract expires in 2025. We actually did the last renewal in June of 2022. And at that time, the community members of American Canyon came to voice their concerns about the absence of certain services for feral cats. And so in response, the council asked staff that we meet with members of the community to learn more about the issue. And we've done some of that, and I wanted to summarize a little bit about what we've done. So we've met with the stakeholders, and we also did outreach to a local veterinarian to see if we could expand services for that need. The veterinarian offices were so full and so busy that they actually couldn't meet with us. But we did have success in meeting with another private veterinarian who educated us more about the challenges of feral cats and, the shortage of staff in the veterinary industry, and also just different ways that we could maybe get more services to help address the needs of American Canyon. So we learned a lot along the way. We also did have some success. We were able to provide city space for a vaccination and food clinic for Jameson Humane, who had a very successful event here at our Napa Junction facility recently. And then our community members also working together, they have their own initiatives of doing trap, neuter release, and spay neuter initiatives as a group of volunteers that are very organized. And they wanted to put on some classes for the community to see if they could grow their volunteer group. And so we provided the space and registration software so that they could provide classes on trap, neuter, release, and also on fostering kittens. So they held 4 classes in total. We also recently had more success, which is great. We worked to financially support the newly formed nonprofit, American Canyon Community Cats. They've been successful in securing a spay and neuter event later this month, and they're going to be working with their group of volunteers to trap feral cats, transport them to Jameson Humane, and do a large mass spay and neuter effort as part of this initiative, and so we're going to be providing financial support to that. So anyway, as it relates to Napa County and the services there, we also are required to meet with Napa County annually to review the budget and their services and our contract. And so in tandem with these efforts that we had here at the city with our community group and additional research we were doing, we also met with Napa County to review the budget. This was last spring. And we talked with them about the needs that we felt were unique to American Canyon, and we proposed different ideas as to how maybe we could revise the scope of work. And at that time, Napa County was not able to provide expanded services or a la carte services to American Canyon. Currently, Napa County does provide for a voucher service where members of the community can actually trap an animal, a feral cat, and by way of lottery, secure an appointment with Napa Humane and have that animal spayed and neutered. And that current service is actually funded through a grant, so it's not guaranteed. And once the grant funds run out annually, it is an annual grant that is renewed, but once the grant runs out, there's no additional resources to actually help this initiative. So Napa County currently also provides a trap rental program where volunteers in the community can actually go to a Napa County facility and actually rent a trap so that they can use it for the volunteer work that they actually do. So those are the services that Napa County provides. Aside from that, they had to change their practices based on best practices in the country about handling feral cats. So they couldn't keep taking feral cats into the animal shelter because it was just going to create an increased population. It was determined that it was not healthy for the cats to be taken in for adoption. It was just a lot of different variables went into that. But they do take feral cats when they're baby kittens or when they have an injury or need medical attention. So that's generally the scope of the services that Napa County provides related to feral cats. They do provide a lot of other services related to an array of animals throughout the county and including American Canyon. So when we found that the County of Napa, could not expand their scope of services further, the City of Napa and the Town of Yountville also have services with Napa County. And so staff from Napa and Yountville met to discuss the possibility of pursuing a request for proposal for animal shelter and licensing services. And the reason that we chose to do this is because we were feeling that we needed an increase in services in American Canyon, and we weren't seeing that increase could occur through Napa County. The City of Napa has different reasons for wanting to pursue a request for proposals, and so does the Town of Yountville. And so we did begin to develop the makings of a draft request for proposal and a scope of work. And so in doing so, we also made sure that we spent time talking with the stakeholders who had expressed concerns about the needs for animal shelter services and specifically spay and neuter needs in American Canyon. And so we held 2 meetings with those stakeholders and also, when necessary, had phone calls with them to make sure that they understood the scope of work that was being drafted. And in the scope of work, we took the language that we currently have with Napa County, but also added augmented information related to the interest that the stakeholders had conveyed to us, such as more statistics and certain hours and different provisions that they had conveyed. So we tried to include those in there, balancing that with best practices and limitations that were reasonable for best practices in handling feral cats. So the stakeholders came to the conclusion that they had more concerns about going out for an RFP and potentially that the city would choose to go with the lowest bidder perhaps. And the risk seemed great of potentially losing the current services that we already have with Napa County. So the community members were concerned about going out for an RFP with those risks in mind. What I wanted to explain is that the issuance of an RFP in this specific circumstance doesn't require the city actually to do anything. The city can issue RFPs, review them, choose a new vendor and terminate its contract with Napa County, or it can stay with Napa County, and it doesn't necessarily have to only consider the lowest bidder as a provision to selecting a vendor. In this case, they could think about things such as location, the array of services that are provided, the reputation, the number of staff members that this new vendor could have, and things of that nature. So the purpose of my discussion tonight with you is really just to provide you an update of where we are, that we have, share with you that we have drafted an RFP for potential issuance in partnership with the other cities. This RFP would be issued in partnership with the other cities because it provides a larger economy of scale for a vendor who would be responding, with the understanding that each city would be entering into contract separately with a potential vendor, and that there are going to be some nuances with each contract as a result of the unique needs of each city. There is a draft scope of work that's been attached to the staff report that you received this evening, and there's a little bit, probably a little bit more information than what I've just covered. But I just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we've been so far, and also see if there were any questions or comments that you had.
Thank you for your presentation this evening. I know that sparks a lot of interest in the community as well. And certainly we like our little four-legged friends as well, having been a Kent owner. I remember some years ago when I moved here, I discovered in my backyard, the house I just purchased, there were 11 kittens. Well, I was very lucky because some of you may know or have known Simone Shipman. She was the neighborhood cat lady. She found homes for all of them. So there's good stories with that. But I think this is an approach clearly that needs to be taken in terms of being able to address the well-being. Certainly we want healthy animals around. And I think this is moving in a large direction. So your allocation here is, I see we've increased it to 300 and, hang on a second, I gotta get the number here. Where is it here? Oh, yeah, 329,844.
Yes.
So it's a 31% compared to last year increase.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. And look forward to hearing more about services we're able to obtain with that.
Thank
Do we have a sense of population numbers out there?
You know, I don't have those with me, but I'm happy to provide you
So just
some updates on that.
no matter where the
Unfortunately, I left
populations are
those off.
increasing or stable or?
Well, generally speaking, they're about stable. They're about the same. They're not growing. But I must say that the data that we receive is more related to the number of animals that are received and managed by Napa County Animal Shelter. I don't actually have a number for the number of feral cats that are out in the community. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand your question.
Yeah.
So it's the number of, the data that we have related to remaining stable is more related to the animals that are treated at the Napa County Animal Shelter, which could be anything. Many times it's dogs and cats, but it's also, horses and sheep and the like.
All right, very good. Well, those of us who connect with Jameson Humane through the American Canyon CERT team, we're aware of the quality of work they provide, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see. Vice Mayor Washington, question, comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Maria. One, I wanted to say I just appreciate you taking an active role in one, educating yourself, educating, the city staff and even us with what's going on with the feral cats in our city. And I also want to recognize Rose, Gina, and Rosie, and Jeanette, who are also instrumental in making it brought to our attention that this was a situation that we needed to get a hold of and pay attention to. So you didn't mention that there've been some workshops to educate our community as well. I've attended 2 of them. I thought they were well attended. They provided more educational for our community so we could understand what it is. And this time last year, we were talking about those crazy cat ladies, right? So now we understand that there's the purpose in what you're doing for the community, and it benefits the community. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for staying the course. And Maria, thank you for, taking the lead on reaching out to these different things. I know there's more that we can do, but we are in a better place this year than we were just last year. So thank you, and thank you guys. Gina.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, I want to second Vice Mayor Washington's comments, particularly as it relates to staff. Maria, you've done a great job. I remember going out to Napa Junction on a Saturday when they were doing the dog and pet or the dog and cat checks and microchipping and all that, and you were there. So I appreciate the hard work. This is an interesting issue. The RFP is going to be interesting. If Napa City, for example, breaks off, the economics for American Canyon could get even worse, because then all of a sudden the county's allocation of costs will make our 31% increase look pretty good. So we may be forced into doing things just because of the other jurisdictions. And I do hope we can develop a good relationship with Jameson Humane or some other service provider. From my perspective, I would love to see us allocate a few extra dollars towards spay and neutering, either through vouchers or having a on-site clinic and so forth. So things like that we can do, I think, will be helpful. It provides a level of service that we can offer our residents that are here and close. And so those are the kinds of things I'd like to see. But it does sound like this is one of those things where over the next 2 or 3 years, the level of service and who provides it and all that is going to become an adventure. And we'll see how it plays out. But thank you for all your hard work and for the community as well. I met with them, I think, once or twice, and I'm glad you stuck to it. I'm glad we're able to do what we can to help.
All right. Councilmember Oro?
Yeah, I too echo the amount of community input and effort put into this, as well as staff time that was put into it. It was an incredible amount of work to get us to this point. I have some basic questions about the spaying neutering process for feral cats. You mentioned that the vet said that the challenges of feral cats. Was there anything out of the ordinary other than being feral in a lot of places? But what did he say that was new to you and some challenges that are apparent?
Well, they discussed more the fact that they have their seasons for reproduction, but now we've learned also that they're reproducing all year round. Spring season is typically kitty season. I did not know any of this a year ago, but I hope I make them proud. They've taught me all of this. But so the fact that they're reproducing all year round with the impact, so after COVID or during COVID, the number of animals at the animal shelter and the number of animals being taken to the vet tripled. And so private veterinarians and Napa Humane and any nonprofit that provides spay and neuter services became completely impacted. And with that also came a staff shortage and high stress levels of veterinarians and mental health issues in that area. So really what they were telling us is, there's just a lot of volume and not enough people to do this work. And feral cats, they sort of have their season of reproduction. And so now you're competing with just the general animal population plus either the abandoned or the feral cats that are being trapped by volunteers that don't have any ownership. And we have to try to fit those in between all of the appointments that have already been made by pet owners with no funding. And, so then they've developed processes such as a lottery system where you trap a cat, you call, you hope that you get a number, and then you get to bring the cat in. So those were some of the things that we learned along the way.
After they're spayed or neutered, where do they go?
If a volunteer has trapped them, what I've learned is that the volunteers typically have a nice large network or a close network, and they have to keep the cat with them or somewhere where someone volunteers to keep them for a few days. It depends on the gender, and for recovery. And then they can release them back to the area where they were trapped.
Okay. Now to go back to some of the bureaucracy that I read in the report and things of that nature. So Napa Humane is a separate nonprofit that provides services for Napa County for the spay and neutering. Is that correct?
Yes, and they also provide services to the general public.
And to the general public, obviously, right. So, and then Jameson Humane, you approach them as well, and do they do similar things?
Yes. So actually, Napa Humane provides a voucher service directly connected to Napa County Animal Shelter through a grant. So residents and or volunteers who are active in this TNR, trap, neuter, release process can take advantage of the voucher, use the lottery system at Napa Humane, and take a cat in and do that at no cost. Jameson Humane and Jameson Rescue, I don't know if we're the first, but we might be one of the first initiatives where we actually work with our local nonprofit, and then we provide some financial support to actually just do feral cats. I understand that they maybe did one separately with another nonprofit in the city of Napa to do a similar initiative. They're a totally separate nonprofit, and they, work on also, animal welfare, animal safety, animal placement, therapy, placement of therapy animals with elderly people. So they're just totally separate.
And if we did this RFP, the potential vendors, could it be Napa Humane, Jameson Humane, or an independent veterinarian? Who is the pool of possible
The pool of possible provider, we have looked into that. These nonprofits that you mentioned, then they are not the candidates because of the volume, because the interest in looking at a request for proposals would be for all animal shelter services. So this now includes dogs and rabbits and everything. All the services would move to this provider. So it would probably be like another county provider elsewhere or another nonprofit elsewhere in the region that operates like an animal shelter, if you will, but maybe isn't run by a county or maybe is run by another county.
That's an interesting point, because for me, I had a myopic view of what this proposal in RFP would be, which is, getting controlling the feral cat population through spay and neutering services. So this is potentially something to where we view animal shelter and services with a completely different operator that's outside of Napa County.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And we're just going to see what this looks like and what kind of responses that we're getting.
Yes.
Okay. I found it troubling, and this is just more of a general comment to me, that there are three jurisdictions within Napa County that are asking for help on this problem. I believe it's Yountville, Napa, and American Canyon. And the animal shelter services in Napa County said, no, this is not. And probably, as you can see from the voucher and the lottery, Napa Humane is probably overrun with their services as well. Is there an opportunity here or to raise this up a level with county officials for it? Because it just seems like three jurisdictions asking for this help. It seems like a bigger problem that we could use county participation on this when it's just status quo right now.
That's always an option for the elected officials to be working with their counterparts at the county and talking about this need. Right now we've kept it at the staff level, and this is where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Alba-Damos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your
Councilmember Alba-Damos, yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your presentation and your hard work. I echo what my colleagues said about your dedication, and I just want to give a shout out to all the T-shirts. I did notice them They are super cool. I have similar questions to Councilmember Oro. Is the county aware that 3 jurisdictions may be issuing like they may be losing 3 contracts?
Yes. So when we met with them and we expressed the different needs from the different jurisdictions, they didn't really have anything else to offer. And even some of the changes that we recommended to the scope of work were not taken into account. And so at that time, we did say very clearly in a very small room, it wasn't a, there was no miscommunication there. We conveyed that we would be interested in looking elsewhere, and they also said, well, you may want to look elsewhere. So that's why the request for proposal draft ensued, because we wanted to see what else could potentially be out there. Not necessarily that we would leave, but it's important, we felt it important to at least go and pursue additional information just to see what else could be out there. And if we learn that these are the standard services and no one else is going to provide us anything else, then at least we've done that work and we have that information for you.
Understood. I also saw that there's a 31% increase compared to last fiscal year for when we renew our contract. Is that just because of the increased volume and the short staffing, or because it doesn't sound like we're getting any new services with that?
We're not getting new services. They did have, they do have personnel and salaries, and they do have to honor the contracts that they've entered into with their unions. And then I understand they were understaffed a bit, and they staffed up a little, but they're still carrying vacancies. So the large majority of that was really personnel costs.
But 31% is a huge jump, in my opinion. Is it possible to do some sort of, thinking of the 31% jump, it might not be fiscally feasible, but is it possible to do some sort of gap RFP to where we keep the county, the contract with the county, and then find some kind of gap coverage elsewhere where they do just cater to the needs that are lacking with the county contract?
That is a kind of a sub-bullet point part B in this process, which I didn't share only because it's something that we have to shop for once the RFP responses come in. If we were to receive responses and we see that no one can really provide what Napa County is already providing, but we see a strength in something, then we want to entertain that. And I've talked about that with the American Canyon Community Cats Group, and I've also shared that with the City of Napa and the Town of Yountville, that if that's a possibility in the responses, that we would be interested in looking at that as well. So we are trying to figure out a way just to provide an increased level of service.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, thank you. And those are my questions for now.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yeah, real quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like Councilmember Oro and Councilmember Abadamas's idea of escalating it to our county officials to make them more aware of it, just like how we were made more aware of it. It started with one person coming in and telling us that we had this issue. And you can see how that's grown. So I appreciate it. I look forward to hearing. I'm sure you guys love to speak in front of all of us. And you're going to kind of give us an idea of how, you've watched this process grow, because it has. And it's because of the hard work that you guys have done, hard work that you've done as well, Maria. So looking forward to hearing some public comments. And I think Mark has something.
Yes, a real quick
Councilmember
follow-up on the RFP. So we've talked about how American Canyon, Napa City, and Yountville are all thinking of leaving the county. So what about Calistoga and St. Helena?
They already have services with another provider.
So basically, all your customers want to leave you. Okay, that's kind of a dramatic comment in and of itself. I mean, 31% increase for the same level of service. I'm not sure anybody negotiated that good of a contract, but so it does sound like there's a lot of merit to shopping to see what else is out there. Thanks.
And who are their providers?
Oh, gosh, now you've put me on the spot here. One is, I think it's North Bay Animal Shelter out of Petaluma, and the other is a very small agency, and it's escaping me. I apologize. I don't remember who they are. Should
Okay.
know that.
Right. Thank you.
Isn't it a St. Helena veterinarian or something, a local?
I see the city manager nodding yes.
Yeah, there's a local veterinarian in St. Helena who ostensibly provides that service for St. Helena residents. The city of Calistoga contracts with North Bay Animal Services.
Council ready for public comment? Yes, sir. Public comment on this matter is now open.
Thank you. I have Rosie Negrete.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just want to introduce myself as one of the founding members of American Canyon Community Cats. I'm Rosie Negrete, and this is like a dream come true, the beginning of a dream come true. Thank you very much for listening to us the last time we were here, and I just want to thank all of my friends here that have the same passion as me. We all met around the COVID time, and just all this has evolved. And I would just like to say that I would like to stay in Napa County. I hope that everything works out, because even driving to Napa sometimes it can be hard with traffic, and with the trapping and everything. It's just going to be more work on us who we're already volunteering. We just want to help the city and all the animals here, the cats. And also Napa Humane has recently offered us 5 spots a week starting in January, but that's just for a quarter. But that's just a beginning of a partnership that we have with them, and we just hope that it keeps expanding. And again, I hope we stay in Napa County. The other thing, one of our dreams would be to somehow in the future have a space, a place that we can be there to offer more services to the community, that the residents don't have to travel out of this town to receive. I'm not sure what that would look like, but we could offer more services, recovering the cats, having them maybe spayed there. Ultimate dream would be to have our own veterinarian to be able to come in and do all that. It's just an ongoing thing, because cats, if you get rid of a group of cats in a neighborhood or in a place, more cats are going to replace them. So we've also been working with helping kittens, fostering them, taking them to the shelter if they're young enough to be socialized. We try and do the best that we can. So thank you very much. I want to thank Maria and everybody here for listening to us, and just looking forward to what the future holds. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker?
Mm-hmm. Michelle Leidy.
Good evening. My name is Michelle, and I'm also a founding member of American Canyon Community Cats. And tonight I'd like to talk about animals in our city, both unhoused and pets. I encourage you to continue to use both Napa County Animal Shelter and the Sheriff's Department as our animal service providers, and to not send out an RFP. Obtaining services outside of our county could put citizens and their pets at risk. Napa County Animal Shelter is 7 miles away. I'm able to get injured or critically ill community cats there on my way to work. The shelter vet sees them, will spay and neuter them, and let me know when they're healthy enough to return to their colonies. On my lunch break, I can run a found litter of kittens up to the shelter. Most litters we find need medical attention as well as a place to stay. The shelter accepts them, the vet treats them, and then finds them homes. If they happen to be too feral for adoption, I can pick them up on my way home from work because they're close. The Sheriff's Animal Service Unit is also close by. If there is an emergency with a loose dog running around in the middle of the road, American Canyon drivers and the dog are at risk. Animal Services can be there in minutes versus hours, like an outside provider might take. And the pet owner can easily pick up their dog from the shelter because it's so close to us. So as a volunteer in our community, I appreciate the services that we receive in our county, and I truly feel the safest and closest option is best for us. And I want to thank you, Maria, for all of your hard work and never dismissing us and always listening to us. It means more to me than you'll ever know.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Rose Maldonado.
Okay, hi everybody. Good evening, City Council and everyone. My name is Rose Maldonado, and I am the board president of American Canyon Community Cats Corporation. We're very excited to be here today. We're a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to helping cats in need in our community. Some background for those of you that may not be familiar with challenges that our city is experiencing and how our organization is helping. So spaying and neutering are essential procedures to prevent unwanted litters of kittens and to reduce the population of strays and homeless animals. However, many pet owners face barriers to access spay and neuter services, barriers such as high cost, limited availability, as we've heard, transportation issues, and really just lack of awareness of the issue that we're experiencing. So the lack of spay and neuter services has been a long-standing problem for cities, including ours, leading to overpopulation of cats. The COVID-19 pandemic has really exacerbated these challenges, as many veterinary clinics, as we've learned, have either reduced their capacity, suspended their services, or closed down due to health and safety concerns. So this has really resulted in a backlog of animals that need to be sterilized and an increase of unwanted litters. So this poses a threat to the welfare of the animals, the capacity of the shelters and rescues. And really, to address this problem, we need to restore and expand the access to free or affordable, high-quality sterilization and vaccination services for American Canyon community cats and pet owners in our city. So our goals as an organization really to reduce the cat population in our city by providing more spay and neuter resources, really educate the residents on responsible cat ownership and population control. We need to actively, or we will, and we have been actively and effectively managing community cat populations through humane and non-lethal methods, including trap, neuter, vaccinate, and return, TNVR. And we rescue and will continue to adopt out kittens and cats in need of loving homes. So centrally, we want to create a society where all cats are valued and respected. So our team, a little bit about us. We're a grassroots organization of neighbors who care for our city's community cats. We have helped countless numbers of cats in the past several years through TNR, through rescue and fostering. Our team is made up of dedicated and experienced volunteers who are passionate about the welfare and well-being of the cats. We work tirelessly to ensure that every cat we rescue is given the best possible care and a loving home. So we believe that spaying and neutering is the most effective way to prevent unwanted litters and reduce cat homelessness. We believe that every cat deserves a chance to live a happy and healthy life. I just want to finish up by saying, really, really appreciate we're here to be part of the solution and help with the situation. I really want to thank Maria for all of your help. Thank you so much for your partnership and for being supportive in all of your efforts with this. So together we can really help our animals. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker?
Gina Griggs.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members, Manager Jason Hawley, Assistant Manager Maria Ojeda, and audience. Happy holidays, and it's really nice to see everybody. Thank you for having us on the agenda. Okay, on with my big speech. So, I'm a longtime resident. I can say that now because I've been here since 2008. A longtime resident of American Canyon, involved in many community projects, grassroots organizations, nonprofits, our local schools, and I'm even a parks commissioner. So I'm getting a little more comfortable in this room. And I am now a proud board member of American Canyon Community Cats. This is something that I became involved with several years ago and have recently become a lot more vested in, as we have great momentum right now moving forward with this. We're getting more community attention as council is recognizing that this is something that the community needs and that we're really doing the work. You know, we're doing the work, and we really appreciate the support of council, the support of city staff, and all the work that Maria has done. She's met with us several times. She's taken my calls. She really wants to be educated and wants to best help us so that we can partner with you guys so that together, collectively, we can essentially contain, mitigate, and maintain the community cat population in our city. So with that being said, I appreciate all of the work that has been done on the RFP, and I understand when services increase by 31%, it is the fiscal responsibility of the city and the staff to go out for an RFP and see if there's a better way to allocate those funds, because it is a significant increase and you have to maintain budget. And so while I appreciate that work has been done and the attempt to gain more services for a lower cost, we need to consider what we're actually paying for currently, and that we might get an offer from another county that will be less, but are we also getting less services, increased cost in transportation? If we get less appointments, animals are waiting, they're reproducing while they're waiting. So what are the adjunct costs associated with actually getting a lower cost contract? And what is the fallout of that for our community? If my dog gets out, I have to go to Richmond to get my dog. That would not be good. We are having an event on December 19th, partnering with the city and Jameson to spay and neuter 20 cats. This would be 210 cats in a year if this weren't happening. What we need to do is continue to partner with other nonprofits for adjunct services, maintain the contract with Napa County, partner with the city and other nonprofits, and continue to spay and neuter our community cats so that we can all live happy, healthy lives. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker?
I have no speaker cards and no hands raised online.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation on this. It's just an update. So, hey, I just really appreciate your involvement with this. It's been quite a process, I understand. Had the opportunity, I think it was probably within the last year, some of us recognized each other from an informative meeting we had on the subject at the Adult Activity Center. So I'm glad to see it continuing. So appreciate your work. Thank you very much. Yep. Councilmember Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a follow-up question after hearing all of those comments. It seems like I think every single speaker said that you would prefer that we stayed with Napa County Humane. But then what do you recommend as the alternative for the services that are lacking? What do you propose that we do for the services that are lacking?
I personally propose that for the services that are lacking, we do exactly what we're doing on December 19th, which is partnering with another nonprofit and spay and neutering 20 cats. And we look for vet and vet tech services that we can have here in American Canyon and a facility where we can provide those services. Because, side note, on the 19th, we have to start trapping on the 15th. We have to recover through the 21st. We have 20 cats. Do you guys have space in your garage? Because they all have to be housed somewhere and we have no place to put them.
So how sustainable is that long term?
It's not without a facility.
And the city you're requesting would be funded by the city and staffed by the city?
No, absolutely not. I am requesting a facility that is currently not in use, that is going to go into a landfill anyway, that is already wired for lights and water and has a nearby bathroom, that all we would need is access. We would staff it, we would maintain it, we would keep it up to city standards, and you would have to do nothing. We would manage it.
What about one of the classrooms at Napa Junction? Would that? Yeah, I don't know if that works for you guys. I don't know what my colleagues think. I don't know what the city thinks, but just throwing it out there.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
Maybe we could trial it on the 19th, 15th through 21st. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as the particular suggestion, we have a lot of concerns about being the owner or even the operator of a facility. The regulatory environment for animal shelters is pretty complex. The veterinarians themselves have their own regulatory construct. The animal shelters themselves are regulated by the county, ironically, and their Health and Human Services folks and their environmental folks. So it isn't as simple as storing them in a classroom. And so we have a lot of concerns about that. At some point, if this group is able to grow and become even bigger and better and more well established, might we be the landlord at some facility in the future? That's a possibility, but today. That doesn't exist, and to then have the city go and figure out the permitting requirements and figuring out who the veterinarian's going to be and who's going to be feeding them and doing all of those things. That is a task that would be a pretty large one. And my new favorite saying is you can't do everything, or we can't do anything, we can't do everything. And if that were the place that the council wanted to go, we could probably drop a lot of stuff and figure out how to make that work, but you would really be asking us to drop a lot of other things. So I think there's a little bit of a reality check there.
Okay. Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, and following up on the RFP and all of that, it seems like maybe where we want to head is kind of rethinking how we provide services in Napa County. That, for example, maybe the county's facility is a worthwhile facility. It's located to the south end of the county, so for our purposes, geographically, it's pretty good. But maybe we need to rethink how that facility is run. If not a county entity, maybe we enter into some agreement with a nonprofit so that we're providing a better level of service and not necessarily getting stuck with a 30% increase, which could go even higher if Napa City, for example, decides to bolt. So I think there may be some opportunities in terms of negotiating with the county and the other jurisdictions. Maybe we'll rethink how we do business, especially if other jurisdictions leave the county. It's going to force a whole lot of serious thinking and rethinking how we do business, and that may be a real positive outcome that everyone can benefit from. So that may be something else to throw into the kitty.
To follow up on that comment, Councilmember Joseph, I wanted to add just a little clarity. When we think about negotiations, these aren't the kind of negotiations where two parties come together and we offer things of mutual benefit and there's a give and a take, if you will, in negotiation. Our contracting process is more of a, here's our formula, here's the cost, here's what you're getting. It's not what I would consider a negotiation. It's when you show up to Safeway, you don't negotiate the price of the bread, and that's essentially what we're talking about. So the county says here's our costs, they go up, you pay a proportionate part of the bill. That's what's happening. And if you want more services, you can look elsewhere. If you want different services, that is what it is. And so that's just the construct around it. There isn't a, hey, let's negotiate and do something. I can do that, and we can.
No, I get that, so. and I recognize that, and that's part of why I think we're heading towards financially something really bad, especially, like I said, if Napa City leaves. So that's why I'm thinking the county normally wouldn't be willing to reconsider their thoughts, but if they lose their biggest customer, they may be inclined to rethink the concept. And so I'm just saying there may be an opportunity for us to take advantage to say, all right, let's rethink the business model. And so I'm just saying it's something to be on the lookout for as circumstances unfold. It may be an opportunity where we can take advantage of that.
Mr. Mayor, I think one of the audience members wanted to respond, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to hear the comment.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Sorry, I'll get to that in just a moment here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have my button up, so I'd like to add a little bit more to it before we continue on public comments, please. So, first of all, I want to thank the American Canyon Community Cats for speaking and saying your thoughts on that RFP process, and I hear you. But what we're doing here is looking at options, and option one is the status quo. Option two is an RFP. Option three, we heard of a community-run place. If we don't put the RFP out and get bids and learn what that may have to offer, we won't know what that is. Yeah. So, the council's not being asked to provide, to adopt anything tonight, but I am supportive of seeing this RFP, looking at all of our best options for that. We don't have to implement that RFP or award it to anybody. And without doing that process, I think it's going to be a miss in terms of the overall options and opportunities that we have.
Yeah, and if I can, sorry, Mayor, if I can just sort of add some additional color to that. It's exactly right. We're not asking the council to award a contract, and this service selection process is different than, say, a capital project, right? If we were going out to bid on a sidewalk project, we have to pick the lowest bidder, so on and so forth, public contract code. This is not that. This is a, for lack of a better word, almost a scoping kind of exercise. So we've prepared a scope of work. We've worked with different folks to kind of get the language right. We've taken our guidance from the existing contract that we have with Napa County, and now we're going to solicit proposals. We may get 0 respondents, we may get a couple. We get to evaluate those respondents, and we get to evaluate their cost proposal part of it, right? So, and we get to even pick and choose pieces of it if we wanted to look at some different models. So it isn't, and there's always the do nothing alternative. So there is, this isn't an end to that conversation. It doesn't obligate us to do any of that. It does provide us information. It would provide us information about what's out there, and it may tell us there's nothing out there. It may tell us that Napa County is your best bet and deal with the cost issues. Or it may say, you know what, there's some partial opportunities that we didn't know about. So it doesn't, and it also, it allows us to evaluate those proposals with our group, right? We can, both staff and the community groups, look at the proposal. We can ask questions of the proposers to get details. It can be a very, very iterative process, much more like a consultant selection process is, as opposed to a hard bid, concrete sidewalk sort of a thing, which is the opposite of that. So I want to make sure everyone understood that piece. And ultimately, if we do go out with the RFP, we came back and we brought a recommendation to you, we would only do that if we thought it was better than what we were getting, not just cheaper. This hasn't ever been for us a cost issue per se. We're not going to say, oh, we're going to save 10%. That wasn't the issue. It was we wanted to get the services that are needed in the community, and at the moment, we don't have any way of doing that other than the patchwork we've been able to pull together, which has been awesome. But trying to find something longer term is what this RFP is about. So I wanted to make sure that there was that clarity in the room and to know where we are in a potential process, but it's not absolute.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hawley. It's just, for me, I see it as all responsible due diligence, certainly scoping the whole thing. So it doesn't mean that we have decided on a direction yet. We need all the information. Thank you, Councilmember Oro. Councilman, to hear from the, I think we have somebody in the line here.
Mayor, I apologize for interrupting. I wanted to just touch on one other aspect of this.
Yeah.
We heard mention of the animal control contract. So we actually have 2 different contracts with the county as it relates to animals. One is for animal shelter services. That's administered, it's a contract with Napa County. It's administered through the Public Works Department of Napa County. We also have an animal control contract. That's administered through the Napa County Sheriff. 2 separate costs, 2 separate contracts, 2 separate everythings. The control piece, we're not proposing an RFP on. We're very happy with the services we get for law enforcement from the sheriff, and very happy with the animal control services we get from the sheriff's office as well. We're not proposing to change that relationship. How it's administered may be a little bit different. We know their response, animal control, Napa Sheriff, is most likely the best option for us. And so how that would play out is they would still respond and do the animal control piece. Whoever comes in and ends up being our provider would then come to the location and do the transfer at that point. So we're not proposing to even do an RP or anything for animal control. That would stay intact. So what the residents would see as they see the stray animal or whatever and they're calling animal control, that wouldn't change. Who they hand it off to and how that mechanism works is what might be different, but that's not seen by the residents anyway.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Hawley. Here's a comment from one of the presenters.
I just wanted to add some thoughts. I don't understand everything that goes into having a building where you bring in animals and everything that Mr. Hawley explained. But we do need a place where we can receive donations and where we can store our traps and our cat carriers and all that, because we have them in our garages and our backyard. And honestly, my husband says, he's up to here. And then I also do coolers. I in a dream also that I put out there that someday we might have a little classroom there for that purpose. Before they remodeled it, there was I started with 1 mom and 3 kittens and feeding them, and that turned into we TNR'd our little team 14 cats out of the old Napa Junction when it was not operable. And because I knew that the city was working on that building and they were going to be using it, we started to move 14 cats out of the front, me feeding them. Maybe you might have seen me out there feeding them, and the neighbors complaining. Bowls, try to keep it as clean as I could, which I did, but we moved 14 cats plus somewhere else where you're not seeing them. You're not driving by there and seeing a bunch of cats like you did before. So again, maybe we don't get a space right away where we can bring in animals and do all that, but please consider giving us a space where we can store our traps, our carriers, and the food donations. We're going to get food donations, hopefully, where we can help people in need in the community that need not just community cats, not just feral cats, but people in need, during this financial time. People are going to need help. We want to be able to help people feed their animals, and that's just a need that we have at this time. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely, well,
Thank you
that
for your
request
comment.
is quite a different I think we can take a look at the storage equipment. That's quite a bit different of a request, so we'll take a look at that.
Okay. Very good. Very informative meeting. Thank you for your comments and the work you're doing. It's essential.
Mayor and Council, before we wrap this up, I do want to kind of have an informal kind of perspective on what you're thinking about the RFP. We didn't want to issue it and have you go, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. If we do issue it and we bring it back, it's only because we've fully vetted it with all the groups and it's going to be the best option. If you're concerned about the signal that sends to the county or the signal that sends to the community, the negative, if it's a negative signal, we can hold off and see how other events transpire. But we are at a bit of a decision
Just
point.
move ahead, get the information we need.
Okay.
It's part of the decision we need to make here as
If there's any strong feelings the other way, I'd like to know.
Well, it seems to me that if Napa City is serious about going out, and if they find something better and leave, that's going to trigger a lot of things. Our costs will probably go up unless we move. So I think if everybody else was okay and we were the ones shopping, maybe we should think twice. But if literally all of the county's customers want to shop for a new service, we may need to seriously consider an RFP just for our own protection, financially at least. Like I said, ideally we could use the county's facility and all of this could blow up, and the result would be the county might say, on second thought, rather than lose all my customers, maybe we can revisit. So I guess if you see the RFP as not necessarily some opportunity to try to get a bigger or better or cheaper service, but as leverage to facilitate a better outcome, then I'm all for an RFP. But I guess that's how my mind is looking at this.
I do know that Napa City Council has given direction to their staff to proceed. I don't have their exact time frame, but they had a similar conversation about a month and a half ago.
And I agree. I think that if we and Napa City Council collectively are going at this in alignment, to David's point, Councilmember Oro's point, we won't know unless we go out there and find out. And there's no guarantees that we're out there saying that we're going to commit to an outside agency. It may even give somebody an opportunity to say a new what do you call it? I can't say the word. A person starting their own business. That word.
Entrepreneur.
49ers.
We may give somebody an idea that says, hey, look, I want to maybe invest in this. This is a good cause. So we may be giving somebody an opportunity to come along and, have their dream come true. It may be one of you guys.
Yeah.
You never know. So, I don't know what kind of fundings are out there available for that kind of stuff, but I think it opens up doors.
Yeah, and I would say that we're in the process of finding a solution to a problem. Please proceed.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. If you see something back from us, it's because it's better. So we'll certainly keep the council apprised. And I do really want to extend thanks to the members of the community who, they did what we asked. We said, we really got to get organized, get a group going, and they've really done that. So our appreciation to you and, of course, staff that's been working on this. Maria and others have been working on this. So thank you.
Thank you for all the work you've done on this. Really appreciate it. It makes a difference in this community. Thank you. Okay, ready to move on? Council? Next item is...
The ultimate in switching gears.
is.
Good
Don't
evening.
leave, we're talking about
Councilmembers.
asphalt.
Oh, yeah, Measure T, 5-year expenditure plan for fiscal year 24-25 through 28-29.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, City of American Canyon, Erica Almond-Smithies, Public Works Director. Here to present the biennial update for the Measure T 5-year expenditure plan as required by the tax measure. How do I hit, sorry. Just a little outline. We'll go over a bit of the background, hopefully not too much as we've gone through this several years now, but projected Measure T revenue, the current PCI and spending strategy, method of treatment, and then our actual plan. As many of you are aware, maybe some of you aren't, in 2012, the members of the county or residents of the county passed the Countywide Road Maintenance Act, half-cent sales tax that's just strictly for maintenance of existing roadways. And then it's administered by the Napa Valley Transportation Authority and the ITOC, the Independent Tax Oversight Committee. American Canyon receives 7.7% of the annual revenues, which we started receiving in the coffers in 2019, but it began on July 1st of 2018. It requires a maintenance of effort, which is calculated at $370,000 a year. We'll be bringing that back in January for council, confirming that we are committing to that every year. And then we have an updated 5-year expenditure plan we have to bring back to council every 2 years. The change this year is where it doesn't require a public hearing. It can go on consent, but since we know this is always a hot topic, planning ahead on our street pavement repair, that we should bring it to business as a business item this evening. Our projected revenues are looking really well. Even this year, I think we're right about 1.7 million. So the 5-year expenditure plan is specifically forecasting projected Measure T revenues with this in mind. So we're trying to keep that annual expenditures at this amount. There are projects included in this year's 5-year plan that have also one-time ARPA funding, for example, and or RMRA measure funding, state tax, SB1, gas tax, that are combined efforts, but that is a different pot of funds. We're not talking about that tonight, but it's how we're to be able to deliver more projects every year moving forward. Our current PCI is 59. It's slipped, I think, approximately 4 points since I started working for the City of American Canyon in just under 3 years. It's just a matter of not doing as many miles as we can per year, but we're trying to rectify that and get us out of the at-risk category of 50 to 70 to a good and excellent category. One of our ways of doing that is a spending strategy where we try to stretch our street dollars by doing, everyone always comments, why are they doing the newer streets first? It's because it's cheaper to keep those maintained. And it costs expensive when we have to drop down in that poor to very poor and failed category. An example would be James Road. That was a full reconstruction in 2021, and it cost almost $2 million to do that short segment of road. So we really got to try to keep the good roads 50 and above fair. There's other things we can do lower than that, but on those higher volume streets, we got to put the bigger dollars at. And one of those is spending method of treatment for pavement projects, utilizing alternative pavement treatments to stretch our street dollars. An example here is what we had a budget of a little over $1 million for our annual pavement project. When we went to design, we found out with that budget in hand, we only could do 0.38 miles. We switched gears, met with representatives on Cape Seal treatments, which is similar to what we did last year, but a rubberized chip seal. Supposed to be, more bang for your buck as far as not having to do crack seal treatments before. You have those cracks in the streets, you gotta go out there crack, then you do a surface course, and then you gotta do the top treatment. But a rubberized Cape Seal can seal all those cracks in place. So we were able to accomplish 1.7 miles this year doing this alternative method. The one street that had required extensive work other than that was Reeder Court, which I'll have a picture of that down further in this presentation. Cape Seals can give you 10 to 15 more years of life for your old, tired, worn-out roads while saving 40%, 70% versus the cost of a mill and overlay, which is why I use that as an example. Here's a map. The green on the left is what we were going to do, and then we pivoted and went to the one on the right and got so much more done. In the last 2 years, from our last biennial report, we've completed 2.9 miles in 2022 and 1.7 miles in 2023. This is not just Measure T funds, this is RMRA funds. The slurry seal and the Vintage Ranch, that was ARPA funds for the Class 2 bike lane upgrades and crosswalk improvements, as well as the RMRA funds to help surplus this new surface. So we had I dislike overlaying the old striping because it doesn't help. It starts to fade out and overlap, and then you have all these different lines across. So we gave it a new surface coat so you could really see the new bike lanes and the crosswalk improvements pop. It also protects the streets for another 5 to 10 years. But here's an example of what we've accomplished in the last 2 years. Here's an example of this year's Donaldson Way. The picture to the left is before, and the picture to the right's after. And Hugh Marquez commented earlier tonight about seeing all the green accents on the Class 2s as you're approaching intersections. That's our plan moving forward on every street improvement project, is to implement these type of complete streets. Here's Elkey Drive, and you can see the really alligator left, and then you see the rubberized chip seal on the right, Cape Seal. And then here's, I'm not gonna say, is it Gisela? I'm looking at Councilmember Joseph Gazella. Everyone says that, there's 3 different ways to say it. But also
the name is Gisela. It's named after the developer's wife.
I knew someone told me the appropriate pronunciation, so thank you. And then you see the crosswalk improvements. We're doing the Continental high-vis crosswalks. There's other treatments available for complete streets, but I'm really doing a robust job trying to get from the left to the right and preserve our streets and get more done. Here's our 5-year look ahead. At year 1, we still showed this year's, so what was approved for 23-24, which is Cape Seals. On the right, on the lower is the Montevino. I believe that's Montevino, Cartagena Way, and try to circle in the little cul-de-sacs. On the left is Knightsbridge, the lower left. I don't know if this shows up on there. The lower left is Knightsbridge. And the courts, that was an ARPA project, but we need to include for construction Measure T funds, which you authorized in March of last year. And then Benton Way, this was supposed to happen this year, but the recycle pipeline project had to come first. So this is almost 100% designed, and then we will bring it out to advertise later this 2024, spring of 2024. And then Melvin Way, we didn't have Measure T funds to do any pavement treatment out there, but as you did the ARPA funds, we're doing the storm drain. There's also traffic calming improvements from Napa Cove, and we're putting the sidewalk gap closure in there. So we want to make sure we have a new surface treatment out there as well, so we included that. And then the bigger blue area is the Rancho Del Mar paving utility and paving improvements, also an ARPA project. That is currently under design, same with the Knightsbridge project and the Melvin Road project. They're all under design, so we want to make sure Measure T funds are included in the 5-year expenditure plan, so when it goes out to bid, we have the additional funds needed to make those projects happen.
Director Smithies, just for clarification, if we're looking at the Rio Del Mar area, the 24,
Yes.
25, these are all fiscal years?
Approximately. Some projects may move out, some projects may move up. Rio Del Mar from West Carolyn to Rio Grande, it's already in the CIP for a water line upgrade, but it'd be really good to behoove to resurface that, as well as the Rancho, as you would say, phase 2. We've heard a lot. I've heard from council, how do we get that next tranche of project area done? So when you go to the priorities of our utility operations staff, they're saying we need the water mains replaced, we need the sewer lines improved. That's why that little section of Donaldson was not completed between Rio Del Mar and Amarillo, because we need to do both along that corridor. So.
Director Smithies,
Yes.
is it safe to assume that that's why Northampton is being skipped over as well? Because now with the new park, there's more traffic going down Northampton, and there's the top section, the section closer to Safeway. Driving through there is like driving through a roller coaster. It's super bumpy.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, but maybe it's something to check.
I'm not aware of it, but
Okay.
I do drive down that street, so.
When I lived there, actually, my neighbors would give me that bad word all the time about it.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm assuming that they're not repaving it yet because the sewer and whatever needs to be redone.
Likely. That wasn't in the top segments for water mains replaced. That's what also was part of that 2022 look ahead, the over $500 million, $600 million of need to repair everything in our city and get all the needs, the wants and desires of the city.
I understand. It just, the potholes at least, now that there's a lot more traffic going over to that park, maybe it's something to consider.
Okay, appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'll bring the feedback back to staff. And what I'd like to also say.
Northampton needs a lot of help. I understand that's the utilities underneath the asphalt that need to come up. There's a lot of leaks that have been patched there, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I want to thank staff, city staff. They've delivered the last 2 years of projects. We had to bring in consultants to do Knightsbridge and Rancho Del Mar. It costs a lot more money, but the staff resources to deliver these projects, continually design them, it takes a lot more effort with the utilities. So, but the years ahead, there's a lot of work to happen. This doesn't even include the Green Island Road that's happening with other dollars. And we don't identify the slurry seals in here, but there are slurry seals to be planned in La Vigne and the Vintage Ranch area to keep those streets looking new. Those are just the light seals that go over, still require striping. But those are not on this because this is a Measure T or combined Measure T with projects that are already on the docket that need additional pavement funding. So that takes me to the end of the slide here, unless there's additional questions, or I can go back to the map. There was requests for oversight on our part, the Rio Grande from West Carolina to Community Park. It didn't make sense to leave that out, and it is at the end there. It's not on there. West Carolina was done this year to Rio Grande, or actually Spike Rush, but it makes sense to fix that, to have that complete subdivision completed. We actually got a complaint today about that section of road, and then a request for Corbin Drive and Reed Drive to be added to the 5-year to coincide with Tyler Court, so that quadrant down by Kimberly Drive and Fallen would be completed. So those were recommendations for modifications to this. I can look into Northampton. Those could be looked at for other funding mechanisms. Some of the utility projects that we moved forward, like the Rancho Phase 2, coincides with the rate study that's happening and will be brought out later next year, or brought to you for review. With that, I'm welcome to take any questions.
Councilman, questions? Excuse me. Councilmember Joseph, question, comment?
Yes. Can we go back to the map?
Yes, sir.
If I'm reading this correctly, Phase 1 of Rancho is actually going to happen in fiscal year 24-25. Is that more likely to be the summer of 25 than the summer of 24?
It all depends on when design is completed. They just, getting scheduling out there. They just completed the geotech bores in that area. So they were online on time. I think I have to look at the schedule. I'll be bringing back a Public Works update in January and give you an update on the schedule where they're at. Knightsbridge right on schedule to go out next year to be a construction in the summer. Same with Melvin at this point.
Because
that's a more robust project. It's got
okay,
a lot going.
I understand that. Part of the concern is I've been telling people for years that this will be done in 24, and because that was
you're the one that told me to give us more time, so.
that was in 22 when you said you could do it in 23, and I said plan on 24. So
it's going to happen.
Okay, so there's a level of concern there, but of even greater concern is that strip of Donaldson, because it really looks bad that one segment's done and the other segment will be done, and that's a collector road. So if Rancho's going to spill over a year longer than I thought, isn't there a way that we could cover the Donaldson? And admittedly, if there's underground work, somehow throw that into the mix so that it can be addressed sooner. It looks bad. It is really a bad segment of road, and it looks crazy when you see it fixed on every side except that one. So I would just like to make a pitch, and I hope some of my colleagues embrace it, to look at that segment of Donaldson. And in general, kind of look at the collector streets as having a little higher priority than the local streets because of all the extra traffic. And to Northampton, I believe when I was the city manager, we threw some kind of a slurry seal on there. I don't think anything else has been done, so you're talking a good 20 years of that darn good cape or slurry seal, I guess, or the road really is bad. So I would certainly be sympathetic to looking at that too. Realistically, there's loads of road segments and we'll keep you hopping, but
Well, Northampton's got patches
Yeah.
on patches that have been patched because of all the water leaks underneath it, so.
And I certainly I appreciate the fact you've come to us with a Cape Seal. The idea of getting, 4 times as much road length for the same price.
Yeah.
Clearly, in a few years, that will get us moving ahead of the game. And so you're just having to deal with all the backlog and the grumblings that come with that backlog. But I think the approach you're using is going to get us ahead of the game pretty darn soon.
I hope so.
But that doesn't mean I can't give you grief for some of my special segments. So whatever we can do, that would be great.
Councilmember Oro?
Yeah, I hear you on collector streets, but I also hear you on people that actually live on streets that are worse than the collector street. I want to thank the Public Works Department. Last year, they nearly missed Sheffield Way, which was full-on gravel. And I had, I think Director Smithies went out there last year to kick a few rocks on that road. But that is done now and fallen. But, one of the, I think I said this last year or recently, so one of the benefits of campaigning is you get to see a lot of stuff. Not just meet new people and everything. And I did identify Corbin Drive, which probably nobody has ever really gone on to unless you live there. That is, you can also kick rocks down that street as well. And I'm glad you're going to be looking at that because that section gets taken care of over there pretty well. I do have another question on this Cape and Seal process. So I had emailed staff before. Several council members got called out on basically from James Road to Donaldson and Elliott, the repaving there. And I think that was a Cape and Seal project. Is that correct?
Rubberized chip seal, yes. Cape seal.
Motorized chip seal, Cape and Seal. What are we using? Tell me.
Rubberized.
Rubberized Cape Seal.
What they're doing is they're recycling old tires and putting that down to hold the rocks in place.
And then that was also used on Donaldson East, correct? Or when we did the restriping.
That was a micro surface only, like a slurry surface, just a little thicker riding course.
Because I see when we're approving some of these streets, the ride actually gets louder.
Okay.
Even though the road is supposedly better. That happened on Donaldson, from Newell to the highway, or to the railroad tracks on Donaldson East.
Okay.
And I heard a lot of it. And I also heard it in my car because I use that road a lot. Is there a reason for that sound? It's not the smoothest of surface, but it looks like okay, I guess.
I was asked. I heard that when we had the Facebook comments after we completed this work, and some of it, if you look at the prior street, what it looked like before we worked on it. Donaldson. I don't think I have a picture of Donaldson, but it's commensurate with that section of Elkey. If you've driven down Donaldson between Rio Del Mar and Amarillo, that's loud. If you go back on the new surface, it's a lot quieter. If you go on Rita Court, which was overlaid, it's very quiet because it's a different type, it's a pavement. Driving home last night, the highway's super loud. And driving on a rural county road, it's really loud, and that was paved not too long ago. So it's like sensitivity, I guess, on the different type of paving treatments, the size of the aggregate that they're using on their pavement.
But the road is good.
But the road is good. I didn't bring. I have a great. Shows you the riding surface of the chip seal that went down. It's in my office. I don't know if someone wants to go run and get it, but it really shows you the thickness. I may not have time. I know we've ran on tonight, but it's really. It's when they pulled off the manhole lid. They had they put a piece of paper or wax down, and then they do the rubberized chip on top of that, so they don't seal the manholes shut or all our valves out in the middle of the street, so they can then come back later and easily pull them up. So it's not the top surface, which is a slurry seal. We used micro last year, but we used the rubberized. chip which held those rocks in place. That's why if you drove down on it before it was slurried, you didn't notice the rocks kicking up like you did in last year's project. So last year was a 2-layer treatment on most of the city streets, but this year we did the rubberized chip. So we didn't get all that extra rock coming up through the slurry as we did a year ago.
Yeah.
We also had a better contractor, I believe, and I'm going on record saying that.
I really want to see this example. I didn't have any more questions, but I just thought of one. So I'm giving him some time to bring us this example.
Yeah, it's
The question I have then is, this plan, as you work through it, and as we add more roads because we're finding the most economical way to do this, or more mileage, if you will, what year do we get to 70%?
The alarm shouldn't be on. Do you want me to pause for a minute? Okay.
That's just a security alarm, right? Not a fire alarm.
You pulled the fire alarm? Huh? Okay.
Full disclosure, I did that on a Saturday.
Well, should I continue or just wait? Just wait? Yeah. All right.
Leslie, thank you. Thank you.
Want me to continue?
Where were we?
Well, you asked, so earlier this year, we had the pavement management update. That was something we have to require to continue to get funding from MTC, our partners. We would require $2.5 million a year to start. I thought it was $2.5 million a year.
Yeah.
To start going up.
I guess the question was, how long would it take to get to 70%? What, are we like 2030, or are we 2027, 25?
I'd have to check that scenario and get back to you on it. We did a lot of analysis with I didn't talk about Measure X. That's a topic of discussion, a new countywide tax being talked about where we could borrow bond against the Measure T funds in the future. So we could get bigger funds in advance and then do more streets annually to get ahead of the game and start doing more slurries on an annual basis for maintenance.
Eric, I have a quick question.
Yes.
When we do these rubberized Cape Seal projects, what is the PCI of the street after it's done? For example,
Great question. So we use a program, an asset management. Go ahead and share that around. It's a great.
It's not chocolate cake. Don't share.
It's not brownies either.
It's not burnt.
We use a pavement management program. It's been around for over 20 years. It's called Street Saver. And it was interesting that we had some PCIs that we did up there on Cookie Hill that were 0 on their list, but went up 40 points after the Cape Seal. Then other streets that were in the 50 range only went up to 64. Now, we have not had time to follow up with MTC going, why is the difference? Why the difference? One person made the comment, it's like a black box. We don't know the algorithms that go into that to compute it, but that's why we have these every 2-year inspections that the commission helps pay for.
To go down that rabbit hole some more, part of in that Measure X exercise, our PCI seemed to be really pathetic, and after all that extra money, it was just slightly better than pathetic, which defies common sense, because if we rebuild Green Island Road, we do most of Rancho, I guess in my mind, having benefited from the rubberized Cape Seal, it's like a regular road. I mean, I don't know why that would be a 50. I don't think it was a 0 beforehand, but I certainly don't think it's a 50 now. It's a 70 or 80% road. It's a fine-looking road.
Well, it was something we brought up when we had our inspection done earlier this year, because we had just completed the last year's project, and they said, well, we won't count that as a higher survey until we resurvey in a year from now. So they want to see
part
how
of the issue that we have generally with the Street Saver program, Erica alluded to it, was this was a program developed by staff and consultants decades ago
Yes.
The algorithms and proprietary whatever parts of the program are not made available. So there is a legitimate question as to whether that program actually works or actually gives you what it says it's giving you. You see this a lot in different state agencies where they create their own programs and only they know how to work it. And you put in information and sometimes it spits out an answer. We do know that the Street Saver program has a built-in degradation curve. So it is designed to go lower every year, in part because as you look for funding at regional and state levels, you need to show that you need money, right? And so it's built, the computer program is built to always go down. And even if you make improvements, they want it to go down because they need to continue the narrative that additional funding is needed. So, you know, that's why I sort of answer that question that way. These streets, when given the same treatment, should have the same PCI score at the end of the day. The program doesn't even treat them the same way for reasons that nobody at MTC or MBTA has ever been able to explain. And so it's with great frustration that, you know, public works directors all over the county and all over are trying to understand that. But it's such an old system, and it's not really ever been modernized, and it's something they rely on, but it is what it is.
The problem, though, is that is arguably the objective standard to say how good are your roads. And if that model isn't worth what we pay for, or even if we don't pay for it, then that's a little discouraging because, you know, oh well, that's government.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there is a problem with that model because I'm noticing roads that are gravel out there, so it's not right. Did you say this was rubberized? This is rubber?
So you see underneath it? So that's the chip that goes on top, and the rubber's underneath that piece of paper there.
Okay, and these are these rocks or rubber?
Yes, no, that's rock.
Okay.
And that's why you didn't see all that extra rock coming off this year's project, because we went to a rubberized, cost a little bit per square foot more than the plain micro.
You'll have a little loose gravel along the way until it settles in? Is that what we're...
No, that one gets rolled just like the last year's project, but because it's a rubber instead of just a thin.
That's the rubberized one, or?
Yes.
That's the rubberized one.
Because when it's done, it
gravel
doesn't
together.
look like that.
No, because there's a top coat, a slurry coat on top.
Yeah,
Smooth
I mean,
coat.
it looks like real asphalt.
Yeah.
All the neighbors are happy.
Yes. Good.
Thinking about just sustainability for a second, the rubberized part of this are actually old tires. So these are this isn't new rubber that was created just for this. These are old tires, you know, destined for landfill or maybe already out of landfill that are diverted and literally ground up and made into a product that is then used to capture the aggregate before the top coat goes on. So. Yeah, so it's reusing of a product that already had a life. So in some sense, there's a recycled element to this.
Following up on longevity of that, I remember years ago when American Canyon Road was redone, the asphalt on top was rubberized. So does that last longer? Or do we
There's a
have
lot
any-
of different pavement treatments. I'm not an expert on all of them.
Oh, okay.
It depends a ton on the craftsmanship. Part of these newer technologies, the level of craftsmanship and the quality of the equipment and the quality of the operator start to play a much larger role in the success and longevity of a surface. So we experienced the top course wearing there on Amcan Road a little prematurely, and so it wasn't the base was rubberized, but the wearing surface at the top kind of wore down more sooner than we were expecting. But again, with these rubberized treatments, it does take a contractor that knows what they're doing and has the right equipment and the right personnel. But when you do get a good product, and we think we got a good product this year, then it could go pretty well.
Thank you. Other questions from council?
Two more things. One, on a positive note, I really appreciate the fact that we're having this annual program because I think every year you learn something, it gets better, you know. So I think like I said, in the end, this is a very positive step, and it may be 5 years before we start getting ahead of the curve, but so I do appreciate what's going on. And then the other one is, if we go back to the map, Melvin dead ends at Wilson, and we talked about making sure the sidewalk connected to Donaldson and James. It looks as if the road may not, or...
This is just the Measure T for pavement.
Oh.
So we have the funding, the project's separate, so the project does include down to Donaldson with the sidewalk.
Okay, so Wilson will get repaved at least to James, if not further?
The map you're seeing, so I think you're thinking of Andrew. So that segment of Wilson Way, that might have to get added in if we're gonna do Melvin. That's a good point.
Well, just, there's that little piece of Wilson, and then from Wilson to Donaldson on James, that's the old road. The reconstruction last year went from Donaldson south. So Donaldson north to Wilson, and then that little segment of Wilson to Melvin.
You wanna move that red line from Andrew over to,
Well, I'm just saying, what'll happen is if Melvin gets a treatment and James has a treatment, then that little piece in the middle will be the same thing as Donaldson looks today over by the middle school.
okay.
So it's,
Add in Wilson Way.
We'll get grief from the people there who,
Well, the short piece between James and Melvin or Wilson.
Yeah.
Gets more traffic.
Yeah.
Because it's a through.
Yeah. And again, it's consistent with James and Melvin is more of a super collector road by default, but Donaldson back there is also kind of a collector. So it's one of those things where there's bits and pieces that get lost in the shuffle, and then you have that weird gap of new road, old road, new road. So that's something to look at as well.
The Andrew it's been on the docket for many years because it also has a big sidewalk gap closure. If you prefer to move it to James, that's what we do.
Okay, there's a whole lot of people that'll yell at me on Andrew, and I think the fire district, isn't that their segment there?
On James, yes.
Yeah, so the fire chief can yell at us.
If you'd rather get that segment done there, we can definitely, that's just like, which funding do you?
Yeah.
Well, you got to get ready because the Cove is going to open up.
Yeah.
There's going to be more traffic there too.
So, and I thought we were definitely doing the sidewalk to connect.
We have funding for that.
Okay, it's, I think there's more people benefiting if Andrew gets done than that segment of James, but we'll still have a lot of people saying, why'd you leave us out? So, I don't know what the answer is. That's too tough for me to handle at 8:30.
Okay.
If it comes back, we want to prioritize it, that's.
Yeah.
The good news, we don't have to do a public notice every time now. Now it can go on consent or business if minds change in the next year.
Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, public comment on this matter is open. Oh, wow.
I have no hands. I have a hand raised online. I have no cards from the audience.
Anybody from the audience wishes to speak at this point? No? Have a raised hand online?
Yes. Karen Fritz, go ahead.
Good evening. I would just like to say that I was really happy to see this road improvement map come up. But one of my questions is, why would we only do Rio Grande from West Carolyn down to the community park and not all the way from West Carolyn down to Carmel, when there's an 8-inch or wider gap running down the middle of that road in that particular section? Now, if you were on a bicycle and happened to be riding out there, you could fall and get seriously injured. So that is my first question. Now, my second thought on this is, on the new pavement, that stuff looks great. Thank you very much, Erica. The crosswalks and the green markings look great. But one of the issues is, when my husband was out walking one morning and it was damp out, those new, really nice, bright crosswalks, they're slippery. Is that going to roughen up after time, or is there like sand that can go on top of that and in a mix so that it makes it non-skidding? Because that could prove to be a problem for some, especially when you have so many children walking to school in the mornings. And that's about it. Those are just my two concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response?
We can look, it'd be helpful to know which crosswalk, or if it was all crosswalks. We put in quite a bit. There's supposed to be grit on the surface for non-slip, so we could definitely take a look at that if something was missed, or if it's just throughout everywhere. But I hadn't noticed that myself being out there, but not discounting it, because that does happen from time to time with thermoplastic.
All right. Thank you, brother. Any other comments?
I have, I have Karen Fritz again, but let me see if she, I'm sorry. Let me see here. Karen, did you have another comment?
Yeah, Erica was asking about which crosswalk it was. It was over on West Carolyn in Rio Grande, is where he said he was walking that day when it was quite slippery.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll look into it. Thank you. Okay.
I have no other hands raised.
And this is information.
No, we need action tonight.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right, yes.
I should have had that on the slide. Sorry about that.
If there's no further comment or discussion, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon approving a 5-year expenditure plan for FY 24-25 through FY 2028-29 under Measure T, Napa County-wide Road Maintenance Act.
I'll second it.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes, thank you.
Point of clarification, would that be with the modification, including those 3 streets that we talked about? Corbin, Reed, and West Rio de Mar, Rio Grande?
Let's check the.
Can we add that to the list?
Yeah, that's what I was asking you. Is
Oh.
that approval with that modification I discussed in
That
the?
was Corbin, the
Reed Drive.
Wilson James piece.
Corbin Drive, Reed Drive, and Rio Grande.
Oh, and Rio Grande.
So moved, I guess, really.
Yeah.
It's just say Corbin Drive, Rio Grande, and Reed,
Do we need to go back?
with a modification to add those streets.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second to that.
I'll second that.
Do the roll call again, please. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, that's okay. Let me mark that. Joseph, and we are adding Corbin, Reed, and Rio Grande.
And Reed.
And Reed, Corbin,
Corbin,
Reed,
Reed.
and Rio Grande.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Abadamos?
Still yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on in our agenda, we have now the Human Resource Annual Presentation.
It's a multifaceted buffet of local government here tonight, and we're going to move on to from streets to HR. Cats, roads, HR. We're covering all of the bases.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've got our annual Human Resources Report. I am going to hand this presentation off to Scott Corey, who really, just keeps everything in HR in order, along with 2 other staff members who are key to this operation. But I just wanted to provide a friendly reminder that last year when we gave this report, we were told that it was the best staff report ever. And so we're committed to holding the same report this year again. Here's Scott Corey for you.
No pressure.
Always great to have aspirations.
Exactly. So I will be presenting the same report that I presented last year to try to maintain that, that level of quality. Okay. So this evening, we're going to provide an update on an overview of what's been going on in the Human Resources Division for the past year. Provided quite a bit of detail in your written report. We've sort of been doing a best of or Cliff Notes version of that this evening, hitting on some high points. We'll be hitting on the technology upgrades we've done, an overview of some of the recruitment trends we've seen and the activity in that area, some of our workforce demographics of our employees, some workforce trends and succession planning concerns or challenges, and some new human resources measures that will be coming up next year in 2024. It's hard to understate the impact that the technological upgrades we've had in HR have had on us this year. It is very much like replacing a reliable 15-year-old Toyota that has gotten you where you need to go to and has been, doing what it needed to do with a Formula One race car that totally re-envisions what transportation means to you. That's kind of what we've experienced as we've been upgrading with these new tools. Right off the bat, I'd like to thank the council for investing in these tools for us. It has been truly transformational. This year we deployed 2 of the modules, recruiting and onboard, that are created by NeoGov, which is a national leader in government HR processing. The recruiting module ties directly into the governmentjobs.com website, allowing applicants to easily access and apply for our job openings. Nearly every major public agency in our area uses NeoGov to recruit employees. Each recruitment starts with a hiring manager submitting an electronic requisition through their own NeoGov portal. The requisition is electronically routed for approvals before landing in HR. We then launch the recruitment, which is placed on the governmentjobs.com site, and everyone with a matching job interest card is automatically notified of the new opportunity. The module makes it much easier for HR to review and score all the applications, integrate the online skills testing, and refer the most qualified applicants to the hiring manager for interviews. HR communicates with all the applicants through emails, texts, and their application portal through the governmentjobs.com website, which shows them the status of their application at every step in the process, clear through to job offer. So they can see exactly where they are in that process. The hiring managers can also monitor their requisitions so they can see how many applications are coming in and how that process is working. So the transparency of this process is increased both on the applicant side and internally for our hiring managers. Once the offer is accepted, HR activates the new employee's personalized onboarding portal through which they access all the pre-employment background and medical evaluation information, a welcome message, and more detailed operational information about the city. Basically, they're introduced to the city through that portal. When the background is finished, we activate a set of new employee checklists and subportals, providing them with all the tax forms, benefit information, enrollment forms, and other forms and disclosures they need to complete. All the forms are completed and submitted through the portal, removing any need to print and submit any piece of paper. The onboard checklists also provide automatic reminders of routine tasks that HR, department staff, hiring managers, even IT need to complete when a new employee starts. In January, we expect to roll out the Learn module, an integrated professional development and training platform that will help every employee complete required trainings and learn new skills through their NeoGov portal. It also provides a system for supervisors to assign trainings and track progress. The system ties into Onboard to automatically assign required trainings as a new employee arrives at various benchmarks. For example, it can automatically assign defensive driver training to each new maintenance worker 2 weeks after their first day. Next summer, and we expect to implement the performance evaluation system. These platforms can be easily accessed through any device in addition to the mobile app. So we are, it was really important as we were looking for a vendor and a product that it serve both our in-office staff and our staff that isn't in the office, and how they could access things like the training modules and even their performance information through a smartphone app, because a lot of them are using smartphones for most of that. It's also helpful to have a platform that is that flexible when dealing with particularly younger recruiting, younger staff coming on, younger applicants. They do everything through their phone and everything through text, as we have learned, because we typically send them email or text to remind them we sent them an email, because they don't check their emails without being told it's there.
What's the email?
Okay. I could go on and on and on about the technology, so I had to script myself to keep myself contained, because it's super exciting for what we're doing. We're going to talk a little bit now about the recruitment activity. It's clear that we've weathered the pandemic and the economic storms of the past several years, and we've emerged in a very strong position in a very competitive market. We are finding lots of people want to come work for the City of American Canyon. In fiscal 23, we did 21 recruitments, which is more than the year before. We fielded 460 applications, and we hired 69 new full and part-time staff. Wow. A big chunk of those staff members were seasonal staff for the recreation department as we were ramping back up the rec leaders and lifeguards. From an HR perspective, whether it's a part-time employee or a full-time employee, the process we use is very, very similar, and the same amount of work has to be done. So far this year, since July, we've done 8 recruitments and fielded 526 applications. The major difference in between what's happened so far in those 6 months and the previous fiscal year was we implemented NeoGov. And we are seeing an average of 66 applications per recruitment through NeoGov, where previously we were in the high 30s to 40 range. So the impact, we made no other changes to our advertising. We're doing everything the exact same way. We're advertising through all the same platforms, except we're now using NeoGov to help with that. So it's an immediate impact. As we're looking at the applicants in all of our recruitments, we are seeing very highly qualified local applicants who are looking for new jobs. Many of them are working in larger agencies in the Bay Area or in the private sector, and frankly are looking to not have to drive. Looking for a way to serve the community they live in. They live here, they like what's going on in the city, they like what's happening, they want to be part of that, and they want to find ways to reduce their commute and stay here. So we're being very successful in finding local people who are very highly qualified to take our positions. We've also seen a increase in the diversity of our applicant pool. Last year we talked a lot about our diversity, inclusion and equity measures that we had put into place, and we have sort of built those into what we do. It's hard now to separate out what are those initiatives from how we operate as far as recruiting and HR. We've made them part of what we do. You can see from this chart that I have here that we have seen an uptick in the past 6 years of all ethnic groups moving upwards, and a decline more toward what the community looks like for the whiter Caucasian applicants. So the applicant pool is more reflecting over time what our community actually looks like as far as the ethnic diversity of our community. Another metric that many in the HR world like to talk about is the time to hire idea. That is how long it takes, the process, from the time someone applies to the time they either get an offer letter or they start their work. NeoGov, because they do, offer their services to government agencies across the country, have determined that the national average for local government agencies is 133 days. From the time someone applies to the time they start their work. San Francisco has gotten in the news because they're over 230 days. They've caused themselves lots of problems with that. Our number from last year was just over 133, was where we were last fiscal year. We've managed to lower that down a little bit. With NeoGov, the initial it's a small group, but the initial number is at 88 days. So that is definitely helping to speed that process along as well. Okay, some demographics. Who are we? Who are our employees? What do they look like? The average age of our employees continues to hover around 45 years old, even as employees leave and new employees are coming in. What this is indicating is that we're not just recruiting in entry-level younger staff members. When we recruit for more advanced positions, we are getting mid-career people interested in that and wanting to take those jobs and are highly qualified for those. When I say they're highly qualified, we don't have a problem sending a full battery, basically as many applicants as the department would like, of people that well exceed the minimum qualifications for that job. Then it's a matter of the mix of experience and the hiring managers. I tell all the hiring managers, my job is to make your decision-making miserable. If at the end of the day you can't really decide, I've succeeded in what I was supposed to do. And I get that a lot from a lot of the department heads and hiring managers, that this is a tough decision, which is great, because that means we have some high-quality choices to choose from. When we look at where our employees live, we continue to, most of them reside locally within Napa and Solano counties. The highest community that is represented by our employees is American Canyon, with 42% of our employees living in the city of American Canyon. We have an increasingly diverse workforce, as we should, if you're considering the applicants we're receiving. We are seeing an increase over the past 3 years of our African American employees by about 7% and our Hispanic employees by over 9%. I put up a chart here sort of for fun, but sort of because this is an area of interest as well, another metric, and that is generational diversity. We have 4 generations in our workforce. Many cities are struggling with this. Many organizations that are larger are really dealing with conflicts and difficulties between those. I haven't noticed that. It hasn't come to my attention. People are working well together. We have a good team here. We're a good size for cohesion in this organization, particularly with people who are motivated by wanting to serve our community and wanting to be here. It's definitely helpful. The youngest, we do have some Gen Zers among us, the 9%. The millennial group is growing. Majority is Gen X, which is understandable. That's sort of where we are in our population, with an average age of 45. That kind of makes some sense. We are seeing and going to continue to see some dynamic differences to how the millennials and the Gen Z age groups work and how they view their careers. They tend to view their careers in a much more mobile fashion than some of the older generations do. They don't see a particular problem with working somewhere for 2-3 years, getting some experience, and then moving on to do something else. Sometimes in the same field, sometimes radically different. That is a characteristic of those age groups that I'm going to continue to track and see how that plays through, but it's somewhat to be expected because that's sort of generationally what we're seeing with that particular group. Okay. Some workforce trends and succession planning. Growing and training our own employees continues to be a priority for us. We're continuing to do the cross-training opportunities and internal recruitments. We haven't done as many internal recruitments in fiscal '23 as we had the year before. In fiscal '22, we did 6 internal recruitments, I believe. And this year we had 2, mostly promotional. We've had really good success in moving people who have come in temporary jobs like an office assistant, being prepared to take on a full-time job, whether that be an administrative clerk or an accounting assistant. So we've done a really good job of sort of building those people and identifying them and moving them into full-time opportunities. We had 2 all hands trainings this year, one on implicit bias and one on an excellence training, excellence in your career type of training. We did our book club this year, and our tuition reimbursement program continues to be a very popular program. It is something we advertise. I guess if there's one thing we did change, we became a little more forward with things like our upcoming COLAs. We have a good labor contract that goes through 2027 with set COLAs in there. So we do put that up near the top of our job ads. We also mentioned the tuition reimbursement program. When I tell other colleagues what our program is, they say you guys are nuts to be able to support people that much. We essentially, for full-time employees, will pay for their degree program up to the amount of the tuition from the California State University, which is a very robust offering and something that I believe does get people's attention when they want to come here. And employees do take advantage of that. As we look down the road a little bit to some succession planning and retirement interests, right now we have about 10 employees who are age eligible for retirement. Doesn't mean they are retiring. It means that based upon their age and the CalPERS programs they're enrolled in, they could retire. That's about 14% of our full-time workforce. Well, next year it'll go up to 15 employees. And by 2027, we'll be at 18 employees, or about a quarter of our workforce will be retirement eligible. The key interest here is being aware of that and being aware of building successors to these individuals and identifying who is what I call a single point of failure. That is there someone in a position who particularly is eligible to retire, who if they're gone, nobody knows how to do their job. Or if they leave, we have to hire 2 or 3 people to do their job because of all the stuff they've pulled together. The reason I point this out is so we can begin to have that thought process, begin to identify where those are. And as we're looking at our staffing and our budget from year to year, we can begin to talk to the departments about how we can sort of help build our resiliency around that possibility. As employees get older, sometimes they depart and they don't plan to depart. They get ill, they get injured, they have family issues that come up, and they have to just go. So building succession plans is a resiliency issue as well, so that if this were to occur and things were to befall some of these employees, we would be able to continue to function in a way that, you know, we have to stumble for a little bit, get ourselves back together, but we could still move on pretty well. So that's why I put that information out there. Okay, so what's ahead in human resources? We're going to be rolling out the NeoGov onboarding platform module to all employees. We'll be implementing Learn and the Perform tools as well. We're going to respond and develop responses to the employee survey that is currently underway. We're going to implement recommendations for organizational assessments that we have underway in a couple of departments. We're going to increase our mid-management training opportunities, include supervisors, managers. We need to sort of more intentionally provide some training for those individuals. It's something that sort of, COVID interrupted that process. We had a pretty good process going with that. COVID came up, things kind of got crazy. Now we need to sort of regroup and, you know, reestablish that. We also need to refocus in the division on increasing our risk management services. Recruitment has taken on a somewhat outsized importance. We spend a lot of time there because it's really super important to the operations of the city. But there's some other things we're responsible for we need to also focus on. So, all right, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
Well, thank you for the presentation. It's very informative to see where we're going. I'm particularly interested personally on the development process you have for staff to learn, create. You provide an opportunity, I think that certainly with assistance with further education, makes it a nice recruitment tool. Yeah, it does a lot, I think, for attraction and retention of employees as well. Thank you. Questions from council? Comments? Councilmember Joseph.
A very good report. I don't remember saying that last year was the best, but I do recall thinking that reading the report, as you may know, I'm one of the few people who thinks that public works and budgeting are the only exciting things in government. But HR is starting to give a good run for your money. So good job.
Other comment?
No, sir.
Council ready for public comment?
Yes.
Public comment on this one?
I have no cards or hands raised online.
Oh. Please come to the podium.
Hello, thank you. I'm still here, so I'm going to speak. I don't know you, but I like your presentation and I like your sweater and I like all the things that you're doing to encourage people to live where they work and work where they live and play and enjoy everything our community has to offer. So great job. Thank you. And I do really like your sweater.
You know, I was thinking also the change in, well, you mentioned that millennials tend to move earlier. Yeah, I had that experience with my kids. Yeah. And there's less depth in the workforce as well. So, yeah, it behooves us to get on top of it. Seasonal allergies suck. Anything further?
No, sir. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
But you put a lot of effort in this thing, so that rate's very high. I think it's probably a tie. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Up next is Parks and Facility Naming Policy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Alexandra Ikeda, your Parks and Recreation Director. As you know, renaming a park and facility has is a significant decision that can have social, historical, and cultural implications. The City Council adopted the current facility naming policy on November 6, 2007. The policy outlined the procedures of naming a city park or facility, including forming a technical advisory committee, which includes one Parks and Community Services Commissioner, one council member, one resident at large, and one resident youth. The TAC would be responsible for conducting community outreach and engagement opportunities, formally bringing a recommendation back to the Parks and Community Services Commission, and with a final recommendation from PCS to the council. At the joint special meeting with council and PCS on June 20th, 2023, there was council expressed a desire to rename 2 parks and 1 facility as part of the Parks and Community Services work plan for fiscal year 2023-24. That included Community Park 1, Community Park 2, and the former Napa Junction Elementary School, which was acquired by the city in September of 2022. In addition to that, and almost simultaneously, the council also expressed a desire to obtain the American Canyon history from 1992, when the city became incorporated, to present day. City staff is currently working with 5 American Canyon High School seniors to complete that project. And I am proud to say that we've actually made quite a headway on interviewing some significant people in American Canyon who have helped shape American Canyon to what it is today. To date, the current facility naming policy has not been used in its current condition. The last time a city renamed a facility was the Adult Activity Center in 2022. However, and this is not to be critical of that process or PCS or anybody that was part of that process, because what we did was exactly what needed to be done. This is just a statement to show that even in its current condition, we did not use the policy as it was written. We, instead of having the TAC consist of 1 PCS member, 1 council member, 1 resident adult, and 1 youth resident, the TAC committee included 2 PCS members and 7 other members with various backgrounds in adult aging and support. The TAC did not include a youth member or a council member. On August 10, 2023, the PCS reviewed the city's parks and facility naming policy with the intent to rename Community Park 1, Community Park 2, and the former Napa Junction Elementary School. After careful consideration, the PCS recommended an update to the policy to ensure the renaming of a city park or facility reflects the community's values, identity, history, culture, and diversity, and is inclusive and representative of the American Canyon community. The proposed updated facility naming policy, which is before you this evening, was reviewed and discussed at the additional PCS meetings on October 12th and November 9th. And the following changes from a large perspective, what we wanted to focus on was having a broader naming criteria that is inclusive to our community. And understanding that that criteria, you did not need to meet all of the bullet points that are listed, but it needed to be one of those bullet points for it to be considered. 2 was the procedure and a realistic timeline of what it would take to actually rename a city park or facility. That was not currently in the policy, and there was some vagueness around that process, and we wanted to be transparent of what that would look like from the start of having starting that a community engagement all the way to bringing a recommendation to the council. Number 3 is changing the TAC committee to PCS. It was under our impression that during the joint special meeting with PCS and council that PCS received direction from council to rename those facilities, and so we really felt that that was an opportunity that we make PCS be that public engagement body, and that is the place that we would engage with the public and have those conversations and then ultimately bring a recommendation to council. And then number 4, update the definitions, because we felt it was a little light and a little vague on what is considered a park or facility throughout the policy. We are confident that the proposed changes will enhance the effectiveness and relevance of the policy and will provide an opportunity for the city to receive valuable insight into the community's perspectives, memories, and connection to location. Upon approval and adoption of this policy and the completion of the history project, the Parks and Community Services Commission is eager to start the renaming process for Community Park 1, Community Park 2, and the former Napa Junction Elementary School, which we are unofficially calling the Napa Junction Community Center in the meantime. However, I am here to answer any questions for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Comment, questions from council? Councilmember Joseph?
Yes, well, in general, I support the revisions. I think it makes sense to be able to tell the PCS to look into this, and they solicit all that input and then come up with a recommendation for the council. I also want to really highlight the history process that, as Fran knows, she's had commissioned me and a couple of others to do that. So I'm particularly appreciative of the fact that your shop is taking the lead on that and getting those oral histories. So I'm really excited about that, and I encourage everybody, that's something we should do, because getting that on video is critical. To me, more important than transcribing it, just having a recording of people's thoughts and histories and reflections. That's very important. So thank you for doing that.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ally, I think you did an excellent job covering everything that we asked you to do for the renaming. I'm in support of all the suggestions that you're making. But mostly, I just think that, to echo what Councilmember Joseph says, it's nice to know that we are actually going to reach out to some of our senior, seasoned residents to kind of find out that history that make the city what it is today. So, but I think you covered everything that we've asked you to cover on that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, I would weigh in on that. That's an important piece of history to do. I think if there's any photographs, pictures that could be collected along that route. I got an interesting one. My son is a bit of a history buff. He gave me a picture of the Rancho Del Mar from the, this was from 1956, I think it was, from the Register, the newspaper. Teresa Street is not on it, but there's a gap for it to come into Los Altos, that type of thing. It's just, and of course, I bought my first house from the original owner in Rancho, built in 1954. You paid $9,000 for it. Of course, at 1954 as a meat cutter, how much are you making? I don't know, 50 cents, 75 cents an hour. But it's just those types of stories that, just kind of makes the history of our community so much more viable, so much more real. And if we can collect all of that, I'm just really pleased that it's high school kids are involved with that. They'll give them a really strong perspective of this is where you live. This is what this city's about. Yeah. Thank you. Any other comment from council?
No, sir.
Council ready for public comment?
Yes, sir.
Public comment is now open.
Mayor Garcia, I have no cards and no hands raised online.
Okay. Well, then we have a closed public comment. We return to council for further discussion, decide that.
If there's no further, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution 2023 next in order, a resolution of the City Council of the City of American Canyon to repeal and replace the resolution from 2007 -168 with the updated city facility naming policy.
I'll second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abadamos?
Yes.
Councilmember Joseph?
Yes.
Councilmember Oro?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Washington?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes. Thank you. So next on our agenda would be management staff oral reports. Yes. Maintenance of utility department update and fleet buildings and park maintenance. All right.
Yes, Mayor. Public Works Superintendent Brian Return has a presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Brian Return, Public Works Superintendent. I'm here for a real quick update. I was here in July. Not much has changed. Not a lot of big things going on in maintenance, just more of the same. Fleet maintenance, we're still working with Enterprise Fleet. Right now, we've gotten quite a few trucks that have come in, and we have a few more hybrid F-150s, and then we're done with the smaller trucks. Next round, we're going for a few more larger F-450, 550 size to replace some of the older fleet. And then we're gonna work with them to get large bids for large dump trucks, because our dump trucks are in one of the oldest things we have. One of the things that we purchased shortly, and now is in service, is a new heavy equipment trailer, which will make it easier for staff to load and unload equipment, because it has air ramps and air brakes. So there's a little bit of training to go with that, which we provide. Mechanic has been maintaining the other heavy equipment, backhoes and such, which in the next couple of years, we're gonna have to start looking at replacing those, because they're aging also. Building maintenance, the biggest thing we've done is we're working on the west side of Napa Junction, which is gonna be the future Courtyard site. We've got a site plan going on, and we did a site survey for topography, and now we're working with the company RSA to do site planning, basically put the Lego pieces where they need to go, because once we put them in, I don't want to move them. I want to put them in the first time where they need to go. We have a large shop building purchased, and we're figuring out where it's going to sit to be the most useful and efficient for the space we have there. And once the site plan is done, we can start construction on the shop, and then putting in lights and moving containers and fuel stations, and hopefully solar in the future. We're gonna set up to where that can go in. And then once that's done, we're moving out of the old Courtyard, and I can finish cleaning and getting it ready for ACCPF in the Echo Center. Park maintenance, they're basically doing the same thing. It's the fall season. They did their fall weed abatement and mowing, and we actually split up where Parks does certain areas, and Streets and Stormwater takes over some of the riparian areas along the creeks again, which made it go a lot quicker. We just went up and did some improvements at Newell Open Space. There was a 12-foot entry gate at the top of the hill, and myself and some staff members put in a 16-foot wide gate. And my plan, because I know where the property line is that we can use, I'm going to realign the fence line so it's more of a straight, flat shot when you go in, instead of you're driving on the hillside before you get to the curb at the top. And then basically just keeping up the parks and going for staff recruitments in the future, because Watson Ranch is coming on board in the next year or so. And the last thing I added this in was the tree lighting. If you guys went out to the tree lighting, park maintenance, everybody looks at the tree and says, oh, it doesn't look that great. But when you put lights on it at night, we have a staff member who's a drone pilot. So every year to check his work, when he's done, he flies the drone. Jen, how do I get the video to play? He does this cool thing that we got it to put it on. Can I just click on the picture, or is there something?
The next slide.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm not.
You should.
What? Go.
Oh, there we go.
So this is going down north on Shenandoah Drive and then into the park. And the way he does it, he puts music to it, and it's just not real fancy music, but
Check it out.
Go to any other city and look at their Christmas tree or their holiday tree, and compare it to what we do for ours. And
We got the
there it
best.
is, right there at the bottom of the screen.
There it is.
So, and that's it. That's all I got. Hopefully, I'll be able to give you more updates of cooler things that are going on in the future in the next 3 months and 6 months and by summertime. But with maintenance, it's maintenance. There's not a lot of cool fancy
Thank you for the
things going on.
update. That's it's good to know we're keeping on top of things.
So now we're at questions or comments.
So you got a new tractor here on the what's that one with no parks and maintenance highlights?
Say that again.
It's a new. It looks like a new tractor, Caterpillar.
Oh, that was a remote control mower that we
Oh, is that what
purchased
that is?
earlier in the spring. Because we have areas that are pretty steep.
Yes.
So instead of having
instead of
guys
putting-
on weed eaters and slipping, this
Yeah,
thing can go to
yeah.
a 54-degree slope. It will not turn over, because when we demoed it, I tried. And the vendor was like, what are you trying to do? Turn it over? Yeah. And he goes, no, you won't. And he went way more in depth with trying to, show me. So it was like, the streets guys are out there. They're like, dude, sold, buy this, but figure out how to buy it.
Well,
So,
I think I trust his call on that. I wouldn't want to figure it out myself.
yeah. So it works out well. There's areas where Cartagena across from Vets Park, it's got a lot of trees and the creek and the channels right there. We have to go in and we mowed that last year. This year we got sheep that came in,
Yes.
and they did a really good job. And we like that because around the riparian areas, we don't have to do bird surveys, which saves us money to use at other places. So,
Very good.
yeah.
What happened with the old playground equipment at Napa Junction?
It was out of date, and some of it, because it hadn't been used, the plastic started to dry up.
Oh, okay.
And when I removed it, we scrapped the aluminum and steel, and the rest of it dumpstered.
No, I've got a connection with that. See, many years
A
ago.
lot of people did. A lot of people are like, what are you going to do? You going to save it? I'm like,
Oh, no,
No,
we assembled it.
yeah. And I've
It was-
done that before where we've dismantled it, and Rotary has taken it to sister cities in Mexico and reassembled it. But
We were
this stuff
Kiwanis
was-
Club, came down and did that one there, the one at Donaldson Way School.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Once it gets past its lifespan, because a lot of it's plastic,
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
safe to move.
It's got to
and
go away when that
redo.
happens.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you. Councilmember Joseph, comment?
A real quick comment on the playgrounds. Just as an FYI, the Kiwanis Club is working with the Napa Kiwanis Club and the Boys and Girls Club to do a one-day project to assemble a new playground equipment at the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh,
So,
all right.
nice.
Mayor, you'll have your
American
chance to
Canyon?
We'll do it again?
do it again.
All right.
Here in American
Yeah.
Canyon? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's just an exciting piece of information.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
But my real question was back to the fleet. How are we doing on electrifying it? I know the heavy equipment is a little bit of a challenge, but any
Yes.
of the
Yes, we
locals?
have hybrids. All the F-150s that we've gotten lately have been the regenerative hybrids. We have the building maintenance van is fully electric, and we don't not yet have a lot of infrastructure to charge a lot of vehicles. And the manufacturers are cutting back, and you remember back when the last director was here and he said, we get to Disneyland and you get to the ride and then, oh, sorry, it's closed. That's what's happened to us 3 or 4 times. And I have another meeting with the 20th of this month with Enterprise to figure out what we're,
Yeah, Brian's right. We have a follow-up meeting with Enterprise and our finance director. One of the things that we're, Councilmember Joseph, that we're concerned about is the ability to actually get these electric vehicles delivered. One of the things that the manufacturers have cut back on their production. That's not the very popular thing for them to say, but all of them have cut back on the production of their electric vehicles. And the other thing that they've figured out is that the cost for them to build an electric vehicle, the drivetrains, the chassis, and everything else is the same. They have some margin on those items, but where they make most of their profit is on the trims, leather seats, higher end radio systems, all of the extras, if you will, that go into a trim. And so, as a lot of places are looking at conversion of fleet, there is a pent-up demand for it, but what the manufacturers have figured out that it's more profitable for them to sell only the higher trims. So there is no interest amongst the manufacturers of producing a low-end maintenance electric vehicle with none of the upgrades, none of the higher trims. They make very little margin on it. So for them, they've stopped, which is why our orders keep getting canceled. We don't, as much as we love our employees, they don't necessarily need leather seats and heated steering wheels and all of the other things. Those luxury kinds of vehicles, these are work trucks, meant to do that kind of work. But the manufacturers have figured out that they only offer those, they make a much higher margin on a luxury version of the same vehicle. That's where they make their money. So We've gotten probably half a dozen of orders that have been accepted with delivery dates, and they go, oh, nope, never mind. We're not, we're not delivering you your base maintenance vehicle. And what happened is that particular vehicle turned into a higher end trim somewhere along the production line and got sold to a private citizen, most likely, for much higher cost. So when you factor in some of the rebates and things that are available, which supports those higher costs, right? Purchasers of vehicles can get some pretty good rebates, which might even, in their mind, justify paying for a higher level trim than they might not have already even done. So that's where the actual market is, which is different than where the policymakers are, and that's the rub that we're finding.
Well, that's definitely a discouraging piece of information. It seems like contractually, if I guess they have language that gives them ability to say
They do. Enterprise puts the order in, and they work with the manufacturer, and the manufacturer changes their mind. There's not a lot of recourse. So it's, the system is constructed to, these aren't the purchase orders that we prepared. These are the purchase orders prepared by the manufacturer. So they're the ones in the control of that process. And the narrative is quite a bit different, like I said, from the policy level to what's happening in the real world.
Would we have any different result if we went out to bid and went to a car lot and said, hey, I'm looking to buy a electric 150?
It's something we're thinking about. That's why we're going to have a kind of check-in with Enterprise, is to see what the assumptions were, to see where the program has gone in the time that we've had them. And I don't know that buying in quantity and buying in bulk through just aggregate purchasing power just generally is more effective.
Yeah.
It seems pretty strange that we might be able to find something that the people who do this for a living wouldn't be able to do. That said, it's a consultation we're going to have with them, and
Okay.
I think there is some benefit to the hybrid vehicles that we're getting. They do have better gas mileage than than an all electric fleet. And Brian's right to point out we do have some limitations of our own around some of the charging infrastructure. So there's a gap there that we need to address too.
Well, it does seem like, well, I'm glad you're looking into it, because I know that Enterprise, the advantage seemed to be that they would take care of a lot of the headaches, but it's starting to sound like they can, but not necessarily, we don't necessarily have the kind of flexibility of acquiring what we want to acquire. So I'm glad you're looking into it. Be interesting to monitor it.
Okay. Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, well, my question, and thank you for the presentation, Brian. I don't know, it's probably more directed to you, Mr. Holly. And I was going to ask about the same thing with the infrastructure of the.
Can I go? Or do you want me to stay here?
Stay right there.
Okay.
You can stay.
Stay right there. I was going to ask about the infrastructure for the charging stations, but for the solar panels, are we trying to save real estate, ground real estate, and trying to put the solar panels, maybe rooftop type solar panels, just to save on real estate? Is that the goal, or is that the plan?
My goal was to have them cantilevered like they have at PD and at wastewater, to where you can park under them.
Yeah.
Because it saves it. And rooftops, awesome, because there's a lot of roof at Napa Junction, but it's all from the early 50s. So I don't want to poke any holes in the roof. I don't want to add any more weight to the roof.
Yeah.
I'd rather do what we can do, which is put a pole in, have it cantilevered, solar on it, and then when we do that, we can create our own electricity, and we can put charging stations in. So if we do go, oh yeah, all the smaller trucks or vehicles are going to be all electric, boom, we just park them right there. We create our own electricity. We have a generator in case power goes out. And yeah, that's my vision and goal for that, is to do that. That's why I figured when we park them and get them set up on the old player on the west side, solar down both sides if it's feasible, and everything costs money. So, where we can get grants and stuff like that. And I come to you guys and say, hey, I'm looking at this, or we got a plan to do this, but there's going to be a cost sharing or whatever. Then,
That's good. See, you needed to stay up there.
my goal is to, I'm in Scott's presentation of the baby boomers that can retire. I'm already in that point, so I'm trying to do what I can for the guys that are going to be here for 10 to 15 more years before I leave, which is move over there and have a viable space for them.
Right. Thanks, Brian.
Anything else?
Any other council comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Any public comment? No. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. I'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Something to look forward to.
Yep.
Moving on now to mayor, council comments and committee reports.
Mayor, I think we might have a couple other management reports.
We do?
We got this telepathy going with Director Aikida. I think she may have a report. I don't know if anyone else has any other reports. So, go ahead.
I'm back to share all the wonderful things that are happening over the next couple weeks here in our community. So on December 6th, which is tomorrow, we have the Napa Valley Tourism Business Improvement District meeting at 11 a.m. Also, that evening at 6:30, we have a special Joint Planning Commission and Open Space Active Transportation and Sustainability Commission meeting. On December 7th, we have the American Canyon Chamber of Commerce is hosting their chamber coffee chat at the American Canyon Chamber of Commerce from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. On December 8th is Bunko Night. This is provided to you by Seroptimus and will be held at the World Marine Clubhouse from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. On the 9th, we have Discovery Day at the Wetlands, which is being provided by the American Canyon Community and Parks Foundation down at the Wetlands Park from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. On December 14th, we have Cocoa and Carols at the Adult Activity Center. This is a free event that is in partnership with Seroptimus from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then on the 16th, we have Donuts with Santa at the Adult Activity Center. There's registration required with that program, and it's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then on the 16th, we have a holiday reception, which is brought to you by American Canyon Arts Foundation at the Napa Junction Community Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then on the 18th, we have the American Canyon Fire Finance Subcommittee meeting at City Hall in the chambers at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Excuse me, I think the chambers get together on December 7th. I thought that was at the Doubletree. Because I think it's in conjunction with the illumination of lights thing.
Got on my calendar,
They're-
Doubletree.
Yeah, they're also doing a luncheon too, I think, at Bell King this week.
On the community calendar, it did say the chamber, but I will double check.
Okay.
I'll double check.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I may have read it wrong too. I'll be honest about that.
Right. Thank you for the report. It's Doubletree.
That's all we had, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. So, City Council reports. Councilmember Oro, anything further to add to yours?
Not really, sir, on the report side, but tomorrow, Cal Cities is hosting a webinar for us with the California Forever Developer, which is the big thing in Solano. It's a really interesting conversation that's happening in our region. I've signed up. If you haven't signed up, contact our Cal Cities rep, Nancy Hall Bennett. It should be a good one. I expect fireworks to spark on Zoom tomorrow. So,
I signed up too. It's just kind of an interesting topic.
Yes. Councilmember Joseph, anything to add to yours?
No, but I since he's a neighbor, one of the comments, the written comments, was from Mark North talking about whether the council wanted to consider a resolution regarding anti-Semitism. And I'm just throwing it out to my colleagues to see whether that's something you want to consider or not. If we wanted to go forward, to be fair, I think there's been a lot of Islamophobia going on as well. So I think if we're concerned about turning down the heat, if you will, it should apply at both ends of that cycle. By the same token, I generally don't like getting involved in kind of national politics at this level. So I have mixed feelings, but out of respect to his request, I thought I would throw it out to you guys.
Well, I had I think it was a previous meeting, I had my comments. Mr. Hawley had his also with respect to what's happening on in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine. And I think it's more of an issue where, frankly, for me, my concern goes out for everybody who's involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's so many victims of this in that, so many innocent victims have been killed. Yeah. And that's just, my heart goes out to that.
I agree.
To be my comment. Okay. Oh, Councilmember Alvedamos, anything to add?
Yes, so actually I was debating doing an oral report, but I have way too many things written down, so I'm going to do a written report later. But of something I wanted to mention that I did do today is I was invited to speak to the 4th grade classes at Napa Junction Elementary School.
All right.
And it wasn't actually me speaking, it was them presenting to me on renewable energy. They have written letters to the California Coastal Commission about how American Canyon is such a great place to put solar panels because we have sunlight like all year round and like 12 hours a day. It was so cute. So I just kind of filled them in on things that we're doing here in American Canyon in terms of like the NG project, our various solar panel farms, our recycled water projects, and things of that nature.
Cool.
It was so much fun. I had to share.
We had, I think I reported at a meeting or so ago, but this whole 4th grade class came over here from Donaldson Way for meet the mayor, et cetera, et cetera. We had a mock city council meeting where they could be up here, and it was fun. But yeah,
Well,
that's had to be a great
They got a
experience.
total kick out of the fact that I also was a child at one point and I went to Napa Junction Elementary School as well. It was a little bit surprising for them, but
All right. Well, thank you.
absolutely.
Vice Mayor Washington.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to get a nice one-on-one or one-on-two escort with Dominic and Juan at the water plant a week ago. Well, actually 2 weeks ago now. I think they do a phenomenal job out there. They take so much pride in what they do. I'm gonna write another letter to the city manager just showing how much I appreciate the time they took to kind of walk me through the processes of what we have going on here. And a lot of stuff that they want to have added and done to that facility. But again, just the pride that they have of that facility was amazing. And I really appreciate them taking the time to take me on a special tour like that. So other than that, that's all I have.
All right.
Incredible views, too.
Yes, yes, amazing.
Well, it's been raised a couple times tonight, but wow, I'd just really like to compliment our staff on the striping on the streets. It's just, it's a beautiful job there. It's really clear. If you get it at Amarillo and Donaldson Way, that's a crosswalk. And I think public safety is a big part of that issue. Kind of related to that, I had a chance to catch up with it's coffee chat. I try to do that monthly with one of the school principals. So caught up with the American Canyon Middle School and talked about, the public safety aspect. Principal's very impressed. It really makes it a lot safer route for kids to bicycle ride. People are driving cars. It raises your attention more when you see that type of striping done. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing more. Good job. What do we have here? Oh, Magic of the Season. Wow, there was another one. That turned out really well. I think the parade we did in the dark for a couple of years was, but to have it centered now as it was with the stage, and I think the attendance was a lot larger. At least that's the impression I had. So I look forward to that being a model for years to come. And I think our parade entry was Santa Claus, right? That worked out well. Had breakfast with the Grinch. That was at Spirit Horse. A little fundraising event there. You get all the little kids who were, you got to be like 3, 4, and probably a little bit up on that. And they're actually they got a pony they can go pet. So wow, that was quite an experience for them. So that was a great morning. My wife attended that. Reindeer Run. Wow. Yeah, actually finished. I think I got 6th place in my age category. So oddly enough, I think there were only 5 runners. No, there were more than that. But that's just really, folks came from all over for that. Mark, you were there, and that was just, they're Bay Area neighbors next door. One runner came from Seattle, Washington, to be part of that event, and that's just will continue to grow all the time. And I think then also Mike Thompson had this great celebration for the holiday celebration up there at the CIA. He does that every year, but it's always a good Always good to get the update on what's the flavor of things in Washington and his challenges. And right now, it's not an easy job. But, you know, he has been consistent with his fighting for what he feels and what we feel is right for communities. So that was a good evening. And see, that would be wrap it up for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I failed to mention, I wanted to wish Jason a happy birthday.
That's
and I'd like to say happy anniversary for 10 years of the City of American Canyon. You're doing an awesome job.
Well,
now, since we treat everyone alike here, we have to sing happy birthday to
just
Jason.
say our fire chief just had his birthday.
It was
We
a
closed
day
that meeting
late,
with
but
happy birthday.
close enough. I think it's only
Well,
appropriate.
can we do a duel of Jason and Pierre? Because Pierre's was yesterday. Yeah.
Let's just keep it for Jason.
Mine is the 10th. So.
All right, ready? Everybody.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear
City Manager Jason Holly.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Any future agenda items? Nope. Okay. You know, we have, on that note, we have concluded our work for the evening. We are adjourned.
Good night, American Canyon.